Three, two, one, and the Raptors have their first win of the young season. It doesn't stop here. The Raptors will be in Chicago tomorrow. Let's see if they can keep the ball rolling. We will hear from Darko Rajakovic. We will obviously cover the game. We'll talk about what was good, what was bad, what stuck out. There's a lot of good things to take away from tonight's game. There's a couple of rotational things that I would like the Raptors to fix at some point. And then there's a couple of things that made me nearly pull my hair out. So it's good, it's bad. It nearly got away from them, but good win. Huge game from Scottie Barnes, although he did not shoot the ball well. Big rounded game for OG Anonuby. Hope that he's okay. Let's hit that intro. Hit the like, hit sub if you're not subbed up. Absolutely hit sub. And if you want to call in, this is a call-in show, so definitely call in and let me know what you thought about the game. So we got one caller already. We'll take calls in about 10 minutes. All right, let's hit the intro. All right, one down, 81 to go. There's a lot to take away from the Raptors opening night. Darko Rajakovic commits true to his 9 to 10 man rotation. I am very surprised by who's in that rotation and who's not in that rotation. We'll definitely get to that. But first, let's talk about this game. Let's talk about, first of all, the Raptors win. And that did not look for certain right down the stretch, but a couple of really big plays by Dennis Schroeder. And then Darko Rajakovic, right at the end, he's like, slow it down, slow it down. And I was like, no, you need to keep pounding. And then they have two couple ugly possessions, but then OG Anonuby gets the big steal, throws it down to Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes with a huge presence of the moment. You know, it's the small things. It's the really small things that make a difference. I know that he's gotten a bit of a reputation for kind of looking back and waiting for a guy to, dunk it on him. But I tell you, he could have absolutely smashed that home, and he decided to wait, run out the clock, and then dunk it. And that might have been the difference because they escaped this by 3. Rudy Gobert got away with, I think, 3 goaltends. Let's talk about the positives. I think the positives, despite somewhat of a shaky start and a couple of disastrous possessions towards the end, I think it's hard to say that Dennis Schroeder was not a very, very big positive for the Raptors. I've been pretty critical that he wouldn't be very efficient, and early on, a couple of really bad misses, but he caught fire. He hit a 3 from the corner, and then it was just from there, it was curtains, right? I mean, he shot 50% from 3, 47% from the field. I don't think that's going to happen 10 times this season, but it needed to happen tonight because the rest of the team couldn't really buy a bucket. He and OG Anonuby really the lone bright spots of the starting lineup. Jakob Poeltl, of course, battling 7 points, 11 rebounds. He got them off when really outside of the first quarter, he barely scored. But seriously, I think, they need to think about this starting lineup because the synergy is not great. And it's not that, no one in that lineup can score. I think it's mainly that the other 3 guys, specifically Scottie and Scottie and Pascal, I don't think that the other 3 guys are necessarily optimized for those guys, but still, you win. And you didn't get a hell of a lot from the bench either, right? Joe McDaniel is supposed to be a lights-out three-point shooter. He comes in 0 for 3. We're not going to talk about Malachi right now because I'm going to get myself in trouble. If you want to read my thoughts in detail on Malachi Flynn, you can absolutely go and check Twitter on that one. Gary Trent Jr., I don't expect him to have, the greatest game like this, but 8 rebounds. Oh gosh. Precious Achua was incredible. And then it was like the typical Precious game. It's like it's great, and then it's not. It's a disaster. He is never okay. He is either having the greatest game you've ever seen or the worst, most what the hell are you doing with the basketball game you've ever seen in your life. And there's no middle. And I was hoping that by year 3, year 4, you would start to see, a more consistent middle, but it's the tale of two Preciouses, right? So in the first half, there's a lot of cutting, there's a lot of transition stuff. The game slows down, and then you're kicking it out to him. And you know what? I don't even think it's Precious's fault. I'll make a case for why I don't think some of the mistakes and some of the decision making issues were necessarily on him and who I think they were actually on. Um, Grady Dick gets his first, few minutes of NBA action. He is scoreless. I mean, he really didn't get off the bench much, but it was nice to see him at least get his feet wet. The Raptors fans were really excited for him to check into the game, and he got a really big ovation. Um, let's talk about Pascal Siakam and Scottie Barnes, right? Look, Siakam and Barnes. I mean, if I told you before this game started that they would shoot a combined 11 for 33 and you would win, I think you would take it, right? I think most people would have taken that. They probably would have thought that Gary or OG got really hot. And that didn't really necessarily happen either. I just think that they played well enough on defense today to get away with being so bad on offense. There are some encouraging things. I think in the beginning, it's like, I think it was the first 9 baskets, 7 of them were assisted. There was less pound isolation stuff, but it did get into that a little bit towards the second half, right? We did see a little bit of, let's call it remnants of the old offense. And, I think, again, to excuse a little bit of Precious Achiuwa's, so many times the ball found him in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know what I mean? And I think that this goes to just overall offensive flow. And I think that under a new system, you're going to still be working that out. But there are certain lineups where Precious Achiuwa is being asked to be a key decision maker in the middle of the floor. And this is not his forte, not his strong suit. And with so many playmakers on the team, why would you force him into that position where he's clearly going to struggle and clearly has struggled for years in this position? I understand at some point, you're trying to expand the guy's game, but also like do that in practice. Like we have no draft pick, and there's really no reason to consistently beat a dead horse here. He's getting the ball, in the corner where he's not a threat to shoot, and he's not shooting. That's the worst part, right? There was a stretch 2 years ago where he was shooting. He wasn't thinking about it. He wasn't hesitating. I think when he looks at the film tomorrow, he's going to realize how open he was on a couple of those threes. And the fact that if this Raptors offense is supposed to work, OG had a really good game, but he also passed up a lot of threes where he drove awkwardly into the paint. I think this is a team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, that neither team matches up well with the other team, right? I don't necessarily think the Raptors are the greatest matchup for the Timberwolves, as we saw, the smothering defense that Scottie played and OG played and even Pascal played. But I also don't think that the Minnesota Timberwolves, with their clogging, middle of Rudy Gobert, who clowned on as he may be, is still a hell of a defender. I mean, we're very lucky that Jaden McDaniels did not play tonight, because I think he would have been the tipping point of this game for the Wolves, and I think they probably would have won this game with him. But I definitely think that you're not going to see this much size. And it's size, ironically, that is giving the Raptors so much trouble, because you're having cross-matching issues with guys like Schroeder and even guys like Gary, guys like Malachi Flynn, where very often they're getting stuck on a big and it's creating a breakdown. It's also creating a problem because in the paint, the size is just not having to come out too much because you don't have shooters. Your big can't space, so he's just hanging around. And so you're going to see guys like Scottie and Pascal and all of your straight line drivers struggle because they really have to just shoot. Like they have no option. The paint is packed. And you saw it like 3-4 times tonight where, you think you're wide open and then you get to the paint and there's 3 defenders and then there's long defenders coming in at you. So I think it's going to be a little bit easier tomorrow night touch wood. I think the Raptors will have a much easier time against the Bulls. I do think this Wolves team is a little bit underrated by casual fans. And while I'm not saying that because they're so great, it's just they're so talented, right? Like Mike Conley is one of my favorite point guards. Obviously, Anthony Edwards. Um, how many points did he have tonight? I have to look that up because I was looking it up and it's like he doesn't seem to crack 25 against the Raptors. I think his last 5 games he was under 25, 24 and 23 as high as he's ever gotten. So that would be interesting to check out. All right, let's hear from Darko Rajakovic while I pull up the Wolves side, and let's see if there's any more post-game reactions. We'll get to the calls shortly after. Again, if you'd like to call in, Jesse, hang tight. The link is in the description for sure. Call in. All right.
There were moments that we were coming past half court, and then we did not get into offense early enough and quickly enough, and that's something that we gotta still work on. It's one of those things like if we don't have anything, we cannot but just be watching each other. Like we gotta be able to cut and drive and collapse defense and find open people. And at moments that was really good. At moments we did not do a great job today with that.
Well, congratulations on your first one.
Thank you.
Your transition, start with pointing out, the transition was very good. What did you think of your overall defense in terms of just kind of, especially Anthony Edwards struggled after that quick start and in general,
he as a team they shot 34%, 25% from the three-point line. I was just asking coaches there, like, is that the biggest team in the league? It has to be, right? They're enormous, and they're a second unit, and Reed playing at the position 4 together with Gobert or Towns. They have some amazing lineups out there, but I thought that our guys did a really good job with the game plan. They did a really good job on Edwards especially, and I thought we fought for every single possession. First half we had some problems with rebounding. They ended up with 16 offensive rebounds. That's something that we need to clean up.
Saying that, you were able to finish the game without Jakob on the floor despite their size. What does that say about the way you were playing defensively as a unit?
No, I thought that Jak was good during the game. We wanted to get him there on the court. There was just not stoppage of time to get him. But I also thought that Precious was really good over the course of the game, and especially that stretch. He gave us life tonight both times, first and second half, and he checked in.
We heard quite a bit of yelling from in. We heard some yelling from in there. Were you doused in any sort of champagne or anything, or
no champagne? Not champagne.
Some sports drink, water.
A lot of ice water.
Darko, you mentioned before the game how difficult it was just to find that 10-man rotation. You went Grady instead of Chris Boucher, I guess. How was that conversation with Chris?
Listen, Chris is ultimate professional, and I have high expectations for Chris. I met with him. I talked to him, and I told him what I expect over here to happen in next days, in next weeks, and how he needs to stay ready, and what I expect from him in order to be back in rotation and to help us. Chris is a very important player for us. There is no doubt about that. At this time, we decided to go with a couple of players, different players there. We're still learning. I'm still learning, and you'll be seeing Chris over the course of the year for sure.
So great defense, running in transition, and just enough shooting. If you were to sort of design a win in the lab, do you think that's what this team's wins are going to look like?
I hope that we're going to have every night that we're going to have elite defense. I think that we have elite defenders, and when we bring that kind of energy and juice, we're really good defensively. And for us, that creates opportunities in transition. I thought that tonight we could do a better job with a couple of situations of not turning the ball over. I talked to Scottie at halftime that we need him to push, but also to be under control, and we got to continue trusting the pass, it's easy to trust the pass if you're making shots, if everybody's playing great. It's easy to trust the pass. The trust the pass, trust togetherness is the one when things are not going our way. And how are we gonna stick together and stay together? And we did it enough tonight, and definitely we have a lot of room for improvement.
And as to Scottie's defense, obviously you weren't here last year, but he guarded point guards a lot last year, and he was battling Karl Anthony Towns and finished with 5 blocks. How special was his defense tonight?
You just said it. It's extremely special, and he's going to be guarding point guards this year as well, and 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s. You know, we have that luxury to put him on biggest threats, and tonight one of those biggest threats was Karl Anthony Towns.
How would you assess Dennis's ability, especially sort of late in the game, to control the pace of the play when you guys had to go into the half court?
I mean, he's experienced point guard. He does good job of organizing and running the team in a half court. And as I said, it's for all of us. There were a couple of situations we called certain play, and players did not quickly pick it up. We're a new team, new terminology, new coaching staff. There's so much new with our team, and having somebody who's been with different teams that role of a point guard brings calmness to the team. And a couple of times he was able to talk to guys, put them in right spots, and to help our offense.
Darko, you had 16 points off the bench. How important is it going to be for this team to have scoring from its reserves?
Scoring and defense and rebounding, assists. Like I told you guys before the game, I have so much belief and trust in this roster and guys coming off the bench that we'll need them every single night. And I always tell guys, every possession matters. And when you're on the court, you gotta value that. You gotta make the most of it. So our guys did a good job tonight, and this is just first step for us to continue to grow.
Okay, I'm gonna load up the OG and Anonuby clip, but first let us get okay, I'm gonna say one quick thing that I think the Raptors need to improve immediately. I don't want to be negative. The Raptors won. It's early, but I need to say it or I'm gonna burst. Okay. And then we'll get a couple of callers in, and then we'll hear from OG and Anonuby. And as the videos come up, we will hear from more and more people about tonight's game. I have caught a lot of flack lately for my takes on Malachi Flynn. It's not that I don't like Malachi Flynn. I've actually been quite vocal that I didn't think that he was being given a fair shake earlier, but I've never, ever wavered on my idea since he was drafted that he's not a good player, that I don't think he's a good player. I don't see the potential. It was very disturbing tonight to watch how one player can single-handedly tank an offense, and he was that player. When he checked in, he was already, I think, a team worst -2, -3. The team was up by 10. Okay? This was, I think, 60-70. Within 4 minutes of him being on the court, and you may not say, well, you know, Rob, he hit a big 3. Correct. He did hit a big 3. And, you know, you might say, well, he didn't miss all the shots, Rob. Yes, but you have to understand basketball functions on a string. And his contributions were absolutely negative across the board. I'm not just talking the fouls. Yes, I think 2 of the fouls were good fouls. He fouled a really big player in the paint before he scored on him. It wasn't just the turnovers. It's not just the fouls. It is just the overall impact of having a player who processes the game that slowly. There was a nice pass too. I mean, it's not all bad. No one is going to play 14 minutes and make nothing but bad decisions. So if you're a really big Malachi fan, you're going to be like, hey, he hit a really big 3. He made a really good pass and he had a really nice drive. Okay. I'm telling you to look at the full totality of his minutes. I promise you the plus minus. I know it can be misleading. It's a misleading stat. It's not lying to you here, man. It is not lying to you, okay? Like when he checked out of the game, the Raptors were down. He is the team worst. I mean, you won the game, and this guy was -14. And that, I promise you, the only thing surprising about that stat is that it wasn't -25, because that's what it felt like when I was watching him play. It is bad. What makes me kind of upset, not just the Jeff Doughton waving, which I am on record ad nauseum. Look, last night I was watching the opening night, and it was hard. It was hard for me to watch the Phoenix Suns versus the Denver Nuggets. Sorry, the Phoenix Suns versus the Los Angeles Lakers. Wait, sorry. The Phoenix Suns versus what team did they face, man? I'm blanking. The Phoenix Suns. Yo, someone help me on this. Oh, God. It was the Suns and the Warriors. And it was hard to watch that game because there are 3 players on those teams that I was very adamant for. I liked Drew Eubanks. I think I live reacted on one of these lives, or it was like in a video, where I was shocked because when we traded for Thaddeus Young, I thought, wow, what a great get. Like, yes, you traded Goran Dragic, and yes, you traded a first round pick, but you got this incredible rim defending center who's better than Kem Birch, in my opinion, and Drew Eubanks. 20 seconds later, they waived him. And I was upset. And I watched him play last year, and I'm like, this guy's absolutely an NBA big. And you have a player on your team, Kem Birch, who is not an NBA big. What are we doing here? Same thing with Gary Payton II. He was in our 905 program, loved him, watched him live 3 times. I kept thinking, I'm like, not only is his dad one of my favorite players, but this guy might become one of my favorite players too. I loved him. I loved his rebounding, his tenacity, his energy. My God, the positivity that this guy has for the game. He might be the nicest player in the NBA. And we just let him go. He was in our program in 2021. And then Yuta Watanabe. You know, I understand Utah had a very injury-riddled season the last year he was here, but it bothered me when he left not because he left. It was who you replaced him with. You replaced him with Juancho Hernangomez. And look, as much as everyone was hyped about Bo Cruz because of everything that was happening with Hollywood at the time, I really was upset about that. And I claimed on one of these lives that the Raptors would regret it because it's not because I expected Utah to go and have the season that he had last year. It's not that at all. It's just the theory of the player and the analytics of the player are screaming that there's no way in hell that you can bet on Juancho Hernangomez being better than Yuta Watanabe. And with Utah, he wanted to be here. With Gary, he wanted to be here. You know, I don't know about Drew Eubanks. Never heard of him. Never talked about him. Never talked to him. I have no idea what he felt about coming here, but he was playing in San Antonio, so I'm assuming he would have loved the scenery change to a bigger city and a bigger market. But it's just like, look, to those of you who say these roster players don't matter, the Jeff Doughtons don't matter, they do matter. I mean, one of those fringe rotation players nearly cost you the game tonight in Malachi Flynn. These pieces absolutely do matter. And look, it's not because we think that Jeff Doughton is going to be a superstar, and none of those players are going to be superstars. But those teams that those guys played on yesterday are contenders. Granted, they are contenders that lack depth. But the Warriors and the Suns are both technically contenders. And 3 of the players that you have just let walk out of your program in favor of guys like Isak Bonga, in favor of guys like Kem Birch, in favor of guys, Matt Thomas. I promise you, if you go down the list of the players they chose over those guys, none of them are in the league right now. You have to stop wasting roster spots on players you know can't play in this league. That's all I'm going to say. And I'll shut up about it now. But it is like, you cannot watch what happened in preseason and what happened tonight and tell me, and what happened last year and what happened the year before. Look, Nurse is gone. We can stop blaming him for everything. At some point, you're just going to have to accept there are serious issues here. Precious Achiuwa, decision-making is an issue. We have to work on it. Denying reality does not change reality. Malachi Flynn, in my opinion, it bothers me that Jeff Doughton got waived. Yes. But what's bothering you right now is you have 3 to 4 players on your bench right now who didn't play tonight who are way, way, way better than him. Boucher, Grady Dick, who barely played, Otto, easily, and Javon Freeman Liberty. Those 4 guys. I honestly, I would rather play Garrett Temple because he is just a minor net negative throughout his career, and he's an elite shooter. I get that you believe in the guy and you want to give him a fair shake, but look, man, there's 50 guys every year that get wiped out of the league. It's not for everybody. It's 450 jobs, man. And you are keeping someone in a position that they frankly should not be in. And I'm not just talking 450 roster spots. I'm talking like, how many guys in the NBA actually play? Some teams go 8 deep, 9 deep. He's a rotation player right now for you. I'm sorry. This cannot continue. You might win, but you won in spite of him tonight. And you nearly lost right at the end of the game. And if you lost, I think you have like a lot of explaining to do, because look, Otto is a rotation player, 100% a rotation player. There's not a 10-minute stint that he's ever going to play ever in his life, if he's healthy, where he is a net, anything but a net positive. He may not be the right position that you want to play. Fine. You need a guard. Okay. But here's what I'm struggling to understand. Scottie's playing point guard in those lineup shifts. So what is the point? You need defense, bring in Otto. You need shooting, bring in Grady. You need solid defense at the point of attack, bring in Javon Freeman Liberty. There are better options. I hope that Darko Rajakovic adjusts, because this is mind-numbingly crazy. It's really, unless there's a conspiracy, if he's got pictures on somebody, let me know. This is not a basketball decision. There's nothing on the basketball court that you saw tonight that would suggest that there are not 7 guys on your team that deserve those minutes ahead of him. Sorry. Clip it, blast it, call it whatever you want. It's not hate. You saw it yourself. Now, don't at me when he comes out and scores 15 points. I'm talking aggregate over 3 years. You cannot tell me like to date, right? Okay. Scottie, mixed bag. Defense, incredible. Like really freaking incredible. But read the scouting report, man. There's 2 times tonight where Anthony Edwards had him at the top and he had his hands down. I understand that Anthony Edwards is really quick and you have to play him for the drive, but you have to trust the help. You cannot give Anthony Edwards an open 3 from the top. I mean, that is a mistake. Now, as a rotation defender, as a help defender, Scottie Barnes was basically like God mode. Like he was, like I joked at the half, he's like doing his best Bill Russell impression. He single-handedly, like, I mean, from the pace pushing, like how he pushed the pace in some of those like momentum shifting turns, and how he rotated on defense was so freaking crisp. Turnovers need to chill. I don't know if it was jitters. I don't think Scottie Barnes gets jitters. So I'm just assuming that he is just adjusting to new players, new offense, etc. But there were a couple of passes where I'm like, number one, I'm surprised he didn't see the pass that he didn't make. Number 2, how loose he was with a couple of passes that he did throw. I think he could have easily had like 7 or 8 turnovers tonight. So he needs to chill. If he's going to be having more on-ball reps, he needs to be really responsible with the basketball, because live ball turnovers could absolutely skew the score. I mean, look, I don't know the exact the 538 metrics on what a live ball steal on the road gives another team, but it kills your crowd. You cannot be turning the ball over like that. So, and it's not just him. And, the final critique is Pascal Siakam IQ, right? We all know Precious Achiuwa has basketball IQ issues. We know that. We accept that. It is a part of him. But Pascal Siakam has to be better. He has to be better. There were so many times tonight where he really, really was just handing the ball to the guy who was closest to him. And he's putting that guy, because look, this 0.5 thing does not work if you consistently make the wrong pass to the wrong guy at the wrong time. It has to work. And it definitely doesn't work if you stall for 2 seconds and then initiate the offense. It has to be quick. I watched a lot of basketball today. I was flicking between this game, and then I watched a little bit of the Dallas Mavericks Spurs game. I watched both games yesterday in entirety. The Raptors had the most clunky offense and probably the most impressive defensive effort of any teams. That being said, you cannot burn yourself out this way every single night. You cannot expect Dennis Schroeder to hit 50% of his threes every single night. You cannot expect Scottie Barnes to get 5 blocks, because almost every single block he got saved you 2 points. His contribution tonight was immeasurable. At the same time, as Darko Rajakovic said, you're also not going to be facing the Twin Towers every single night, so maybe the paint will open up and you'll be a little less congested. But that being said, this is not the best defensive team in the league, right? You are going up, however, tomorrow against a fairly competent defensive team. I don't know if Alex Caruso is playing tomorrow night, but if he is playing tonight, I mean, I think they got stomped tonight by the OKC Thunder. So, hopefully that is a sign that you will have, a chance against them, but it will be on the road. Anyways, let's bring on some callers. We got Jesse. Jesse, how you doing? And we got Coach
Doing
Mo.
good.
Jesse and Coach Mo, how you all doing? Jesse's doing good.
Yo,
I'm good.
what's up, Coach Mo? What's up, Rob? How you guys doing?
We're good. How are you?
Yo, I'm doing really good. I just wanted to, since it's day one of the NBA season for the Raptors, just overreact. Just take it to the nines.
Oh, boy.
Why not? This is the only opportunity to do this at this beginning.
You haven't,
I
you
really
haven't been paying
feel
attention
that
in the off season. I just read a post yesterday that Scottie and Pascal are what was it, Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. So I mean, people have been overreacting for a while, but please add to it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that this is by far a new beginning for us, but we've got one of the greatest point forwards to ever live sitting on our roster in Scottie Barnes. We've got a Pascal Siakam who's going to be hitting up all NBA level numbers this year. You know, tonight was not an indication of what is to come, more so that they are figuring out where they need to be, figuring out how to run this new offense. And it's great to see that on the defensive end that we have the best defense in the history of the league of all time, keeping a team to below 40% from the field. What is it? Below 30% from three. If there was no referees in this game and we were playing on the school ground, we would have toasted them because the refs were saving Minnesota tonight. Just the most random non-calls on Minnesota. Terrible. And I completely agree with you about Malachi Flynn. Look, you were asking, does he have pictures on somebody? No, I don't think so. I think this is more of his dad is a booster of the Raptors, like this is high school basketball sort of deal. Like, for some reason,
I promise you that's not the case. I've
I
had
know it's
some
not the case.
some conversations. That's not the case at all.
I definitely know it's not the case, but like it reminds me of like a One Tree Hill episode, basically.
Yeah.
Like, why is this guy on the floor? It doesn't make any sense.
All right,
There has to be something absolutely ridiculous about it.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. That's a tremendous amount of overreaction. I love it. Coach Mo, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Put him on the bench. We giving him a quick hook. What's the word, man?
One thing I noticed that it's obvious now Nurse was using Barnes wrong on defense. He should never have been a point of attack defender.
Who called it?
And by the way, I just want to say this. I don't want to compare him to Giannis, but if the Bucks used Giannis the way we used Barnes throughout his career, he'd never win Defensive Player of the Year ever.
You mean last year?
Last year he wouldn't have won it. It's the off ball, using your physical gifts, covering so much ground, you know.
See, this is exactly it, right? Scottie's got high hips. He's a really big guy.
Yeah,
I saw him standing next to Karl Anthony Towns, shoulder to shoulder. Yo, Cat is legit 7 feet. So all of this talk about all off season about Scottie, is Scottie 6'10"? Is Scottie? Well, he's standing shoulder to shoulder with a guy who's legit 7 feet. He's a big dude, right? We can cut out all the 6'7" shit.
Yeah,
but
he's massive.
But what I'll say is last year the Raptors were giving historical, and I mean historical, blow-bys at the paint. They were terrible covering the paint before they traded for Jakob Poeltl and got a little bit better after him. And they were playing Christian Koloko, but he was totally useless on offense, within the offense, because Fred wasn't really giving him the ball when he was rolling. So basically my suggestion was, at that time, if we go back to the live, I think it was like probably a month into the season, invert Scottie and Pascal's roles. Put Scottie in the back line of the defense. He sees everything. There was a time tonight, I don't know who called. Nobody that I follow called it on Twitter. There was legitimately a moment where Pascal Siakam was out of position on defense and Scottie Barnes physically grabbed him and put him into position. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
You saw it, right? That is what a defensive anchor is supposed to do. That is what the person who's supposed to be in the center of the court. And honestly,
and you need IQ in the back line. You need IQ in the back line.
Phenomenal IQ, vision. Yeah. You need someone who is tall enough to see it. Look, Scottie is not Draymond Green. Okay, let me clarify that. All the draft day comps aside, but there's a reason why he was compared to Draymond Green, is because he has this unique ability to think 2-3 plays ahead, and that extends offensively and defensively.
And guess what he can do also? He can grab more rebounds, defensive rebounds, and push it when he's not on ball.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It just works 1,000 times better. It just
100%. Look, like, I mean, for all the people that, they got upset about Russ chasing rebounds, when what people don't realize is that's exactly what sparks the OKC offense, right? That's something that I didn't realize, 6 years ago. Is something that I realize now is there's a lot of benefits to your best rebounder being your key initiator. And if Scottie's close to the basket, he's blocking so many shots. I mean, he did something very rare tonight, which is not only was he an incredible weak side shot blocker, he probably also was one of their best guys in terms of box out assignments. He didn't miss too many assignments there either. So that's
great. Him being help side, he's strong enough to box out centers, right? So he just does so many things to clean up like mistakes in so many ways.
How strong is our back line with, like, if you have OG and Scottie on the floor together, both boxing out underneath the rim,
I know,
both pushing
and
their guys outside of the paint. We are a strong team.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, look, this is one of the biggest teams in the league that faced off against the biggest team in the league. Okay, on most nights, you are going to have a significant size advantage, rebounding advantage over most teams. And I don't think that most teams, like as much as can be made about the defensive analytics being in Fred's favor, I do think that there's two things that Dennis Schroeder does really well that Fred VanVleet couldn't do, which were so critical last year. Number one, point of attack defense, high up, right? Slipping screens and just getting around things is not something that Fred was able to do after the hip problems, right? Number one. Number two, something that Malachi still can't do. Like, Malachi had Karl-Anthony Towns on him, like, with space. Yo, I don't care if we're talking about Sharif Cooper, we're talking about a G League guard, we're talking about most Division I guards. If you get a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns in space, 25 feet from the basket, and you can't cook him,
blow by.
Bro, like, this is crazy. So what Dennis Schroeder can do, and honestly, this was the Fred VanVleet play-in situation with Nikola Vucevic. Couldn't get past him, right? It is not normal to be an NBA guard who cannot blow by a slow-footed big. It's one thing to not be able to blow by a quick-footed big who has like really smart defensive, instincts, like an Al Horford or even a Jakob Poeltl. But in the case of Karl-Anthony Towns, if you can't get past him, bro, you couldn't get past me. So that's real. I mean, okay, that you can probably get past me. But what I'm saying is, like, these guys offer so much size, you have to really exploit it with your handles, your quickness, and your skill. And if you can't do that, you're a liability. Dennis Schroeder a couple times tonight when he saw that they weren't close enough or they were too close, boom, blow by. His finishing has been a concern throughout most of his season, most of his career, but it has never been as bad as Fred's. And hopefully it is on the uptick and it gets better. It's something that you can definitely improve. Gary's improved his. Hopefully Dennis Schroeder can improve his.
I think Dennis was forcing it. I think Dennis was forcing some of the shots in the first half.
I think he did too, and I think he forced a couple in the second too. But tonight they go in. Maybe tomorrow they won't. I, for one, am hoping that it works because, at least in theory, he makes a lot of sense. Especially if he's playing off ball, right? I mean, he talked about it in the pregame that, hey, like, with Germany, I had this role, but here I'm playing with Pascal and Scottie, so I have another completely other role. And I'm just like, you know what? As much as I am for starting Gary because of the spacing, because of everything, Dennis does
it's either that or start Achua. It's either that or start Achua.
Or both.
One or the other. Have to give, because we're right now, it seems like we're just sacrificing the first 6 minutes of the game and hoping we can keep it close.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts? Who's your player of the game? I mean, there's a lot of options tonight. You can go with
OG is the player of the game.
OG.
By far, it's OG. It has to be. Like, the way that he manhandled. And, like, I the one thing I still have a problem with NBA refs, and I will always have a problem with, is just because a player is stronger than the other player who's defending him, it doesn't make it an offensive foul. Okay, just because he's stronger doesn't mean that guy didn't move his feet. Doesn't mean that he didn't have his hands in the bad position.
Are you talking about the time where he cleared Mike Conley with his? I mean, that was a clear offensive foul for me. But
that one was a clear offensive foul for sure. But, like, it's one of those things that, like, throughout the season, last season, and the season before, like, he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt at all for those types of plays, and we're going to start seeing that more and more and more this season again, and that just hurts me. That's all it is.
I mean, look, Kawhi and to some extent Scottie have gotten really, really good at managing to do this without picking up fouls. So I think OG needs to just study how they do it, because
really clunky. OG's really
he's
clunky.
A, very clunky. B, he's not very fluid. He has
Nope.
very jab-like motions. And so when you
And it
jab
looks
your
like a
elbow
foul,
out at a
you know?
guy and you're as strong as OG, even if the guy doesn't have to fake it, like, he's gonna fly. And you're gonna look very guilty in that situation. And you're basically you're forcing the refs to do that, because smaller guys always get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the whistle. Always. Bigger guys always get screwed.
I have
Right?
a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
So we're facing two bigs this game, right? So
Uh-huh.
against a smaller team, how do you see the lineups changing much? Because Boucher is the odd man out because Otto never played. Grady's probably going to get more than 2 minutes, right? Where does it fit in? Where does Boucher? Because you can't play a Boucher and a Chua in Darko's offense where you need higher IQ.
I think you can. You just need to put 3 really, really good playmakers and shooters around them. Like, so a lineup of, let's just say, Scottie, Dennis, and Grady
With
with
those
with Boucher and Precious. That works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is about critical mass. You cannot break critical mass when it comes to shooting, rebounding, defense, offense, whatever you talk about it, IQ. So if you're going to have a player, and like Chris Boucher, I mean, he has been a really good player in the NBA, which is something that I can't say for a lot of players on this team. He has been like an above average player for a few years. I mean, say what you will, right? He does shoot better than a lot of guys on this team, even if it's inconsistent.
Yeah.
He is a better shot blocker. He is probably he's a better rebounder. There's a lot of things.
Is he better than Achua?
Yes, of course he is better than Precious Achiuwa.
But the problem is
we will definitely talk about this Precious Achiuwa defensive hype machine that his agent has him on, because that is ridiculous. First of all, I don't want to throw shade. He's obviously, like, I have a lot of belief going forward in Precious Achiuwa. I think he's a really versatile. I think he has a lot of potential.
His physical makeup is just what takes
He's
him
very impressive defensively. It's something that I talked about with Jeff's trainer, which is that Jeff is very effective defensively, but he's not very impressive defensively. He's not very loud. He doesn't make very big plays, but he turns you around. He forces you into really tough shots. He's contesting late. If you look at the metrics on it, I think that Jeff is a better defender than Precious Achiuwa. There's a lot of players on this team that are better defenders than Precious Achiuwa. Do any of them have his max level upside? No, but upside is upside. I mean, Cam Reddish has upside, right? Marvin Bagley has upside. Upside is one thing. When your brain doesn't click, when you constantly have to, I mean, Precious Achiuwa is just reacting late to everything, defensively and offensively. So if you put Precious Achiuwa in a gym against Anthony Edwards and you say one-on-one, no other variables, no screens to navigate, no help side, no rotations, no switching, just you versus him, he's your best defender. I think he might even be better than OG Anonuby. Take one variable, make it 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, and he is no longer your best defender. I think Otto's a better defender than him. I think OG's a better defender than him. I think Scottie's a better defender than him. I think Pascal's a better defender than him. Koloko's a better defender than him. Pirtle is a better defender than him. I think, and Boucher might be close. So that's where he is.
Rob,
in my opinion, he's a 7th best defender.
There has to be an odd man out. There has to be. You can't play 11 players. Someone has to sit.
Yeah, man, and that Koloko is sitting no matter what, because he's got the respiratory issues.
Comes back, is it Otto? Is it Koloko? Is it Boucher? Someone has to sit.
It's a good problem. It's a good problem to have, that you have rotation players. I think the problem right now is you're playing a player who's not a rotation player in your very limited rotation.
Darko,
as guys sit.
For some reason, Darko, it's like he subbed out Dennis and brought in Malachi, and it's like, you don't need to do that. And I remember he subbed out Gary and brought in Grady. It's like one shooter at a time, one point guard at a time. It's like you don't have to stick to these rigid, even with the starting lineup. It's like our starting lineup is like 1999 basketball.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, look, let me put it this way. I am very, very firm that Nick Nurse made a good decision last year. Rarely that I say he's made a great decision, but people act like the guy doesn't know basketball. He knew one thing about basketball, which is that no matter how much he loves Jakob, that Jakob on the floor late is a liability in so many reasons. Especially if teams spread you out, if they have shooters, or if they start fouling him. There's a lot of liabilities. Now, granted, Precious Achiuwa is not exactly much better a free throw shooter, but he is a much better defender in
Vertical
space.
spacer and can space a little bit.
And he can space a little bit. So the reason that I say this is because Jakob Poeltl, despite being in the God mode in terms of the plus minus and net rating lineups last year, he did not close a lot of games for the Raptors last year. The very idea that Darko Rajakovic wanted to bring Jakob Poeltl into the game as he was sitting on the scorer's table around 2.5 minutes, and the game just didn't stop. And I was just like, thank God the game did not stop, because I don't think Precious hurt you at all in the last 2 minutes. For the most part, I could be wrong. There might be one play where he hurt you, but for the most part, I think he was solid. And I think he needs to get it out of his head that Jakob Poeltl is going to close games for him, because I understand that traditionally you want to bring your starters in to close halves and close games. This is not one of those starters that you want to do that with. I would very, very much prefer Gary Trent replace him.
Yeah.
With the core five.
That's the
idea
question.
of even putting Precious.
Who's the fifth closer? Who's the fifth closer is a question.
Dennis, Gary, Scottie, OG, Pascal. Like, this is clear to me. This should be a closing lineup, because Gary, you can say he's not the smartest player, but he's not dumb. Like, he doesn't do dumb shit. Like he's trigger happy, but he doesn't do dumb shit on the basketball court. Precious Achiuwa will do dumb shit on the basketball court, and it's like late in the game, you really don't have time to get momentum back, so you definitely don't want to lose it. Anyways, any closing thoughts for you guys? We want to get to more callers.
I want to put this up to the next group of people calling it up to the chat. But like, what is our starting five highest basketball IQ lineup?
That's an interesting question. Okay, cool. Coach Mo, any final thoughts?
Watching Pascal Siakam and Scottie Barnes spread the floor for a Schroeder Jakob pick and roll. Dude, I'm gonna pull my hair out. I'm gonna pull my hair out. Man, that is the most congested. It never worked, and it's like that thing where it works against trash teams in preseason. Man, it's ugly, bro. It's ugly. It's ugly. And he's trying these pocket passes, and there's no room. There's like 5 people right there. There's no room.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for calling in. Great game for the Raptors. And
go Raptors.
Yeah,
and Houston Raptors. Lost. And Houston lost. Go Raptors.
And Houston lost. They got blown out by Orlando. Okay. All right. Okay. Just to clarify something. Yeah. Just so, because I've heard this comment a couple of times. Rob, don't be negative. This is not negative. This is never going to be a negative space. I don't think it was negative last year. I'm not trying to gaslight anybody. Yes, there was a couple of times where we went a little far, but this is a place that is going to keep it real. Okay. So even when the reality that needs to be kept is about my favorite player, Scottie, or one of my favorite players, OG. If you tell me if someone calls in and says, OG Anonuby is a better defender than Sidney Moncrief, bro, you're going to see me like throw up. Like you're going to see me lose my mind. Okay. There's nothing wrong with reality. There's nothing wrong with sticking to reality. There's nothing wrong with being a little bit optimistic, but there's a lot wrong with being completely delusional. I understand that fan psychology is to gravitate towards extremes. Okay. Scottie Barnes is either, he's a bust, or he's the next Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. Like, the truth is always somewhere in the middle. What I wanted this channel to be when I started it was a voice of balance and reason. Okay. So Fred VanVleet is not a trash player. So when y'all were hyping him up to be a top 8 point guard, I was like, chill. And I got called negative. Now people are like, he's the worst point guard in the NBA. And I'm like, chill. But now I'm considered like a Fred supporter. It's damned if you do, damned if you won't. But I'm willing to stand on the idea that balance is needed. Somewhere in this world, we need balance. Okay. Everything on Twitter is just the craziest shit you've ever said. You want to go viral on Twitter? Say Scottie Barnes is better than Giannis Antetokounmpo right now. See how many people retweet you. But if you say, he has, the potential to work up to that eventual reality, no one will care. We are in a world where we are just reposting the craziest shit that people can think of, and people are catching on to it. So they just say crazier and crazier shit. Okay. So I just want this place to be a little bit more of a voice of balance. So yeah, I hope that I'm not being extreme when I say that this team has spacing issues, that Malachi should definitely be out of the rotation, and that Otto Porter is really freaking good at basketball, because I don't think that those are necessarily hot takes. All right, let's bring on two of my favorite callers, FA and Christian. FA, Christian, how y'all doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Christian? Hi,
I'm
Rob.
good. How you doing, fellas?
First
Doing
win,
good,
man.
thank you.
Actually, I'm a little
Got one.
disappointed. Looks like Wemby's gonna kill my parlay, but oh well. Raptors
Are the Spurs winning?
they're winning, but like I had Wemby's points over and blocks over, so but that's not looking likely at all.
Yeah, so you know what's really funny today? I obviously don't have a lot of faith in the Orlando Magic, because my one bet, which I mean, it was the craziest bet to ever take, right? I did an 11 leg parlay.
Wow.
11 freaking legs. I hit 10 of them. Do you know well, so
The
far
worst.
I've
Always the worst when you miss it by 1 or 2.
Bro, it was $1 that pays out like close to $3,800. And do you know the one fucking leg that did not hit?
What was it?
Houston Rockets beating the fucking Orlando Magic. That's the only fucking team I picked tonight that didn't win, and I was so pissed off. Luckily, I had $25 parlay on the Raptors and Pacers. They were good. And then there was a couple of like player prop ones that worked well. But yeah, I'm not advocating for sports betting. I realize
I'm surprised you picked Houston though. That's interesting.
I picked Houston because
Who was at home? Who was the home team in that game?
Orlando. But I mean, like, damn it! And I mean, look, you're not getting.
I think
odds. You're not getting odds like that unless you pick the underdog a couple times. Okay, let's just be real.
Fred supporter. I think it's starting to come out that you're a closet Fred supporter. Like,
I'm not a Fred supporter, but I definitely don't think that he's like some trash basketball player that everyone keeps talking about him. Like, you know what I mean? But I mean, like, I thought the Orlando Magic would probably struggle, but they are for real. Orlando Magic championship time, they blow out the Houston Rockets. The other, you know, oh my god,
just the way they finished last year and Houston being Houston, I don't know, but yeah.
Oh my god,
the worst ones though.
I've been living for this comment right here. Rob overrates Fred. Fred's family, yo, Rockford, Illinois, your boy got you, man. I'm here to become a Fred booster, and you know we're gonna change the narrative. Look, man, honestly, like people need to fucking chill. He's not the worst point guard in the NBA. He's not the best either. He's not close. I'm happy he's gone. And yeah, part of me, apart from the fact that he fucking cost me $3,000 tonight, I'm happy that he lost too, because I really don't like Dylan Brooks, and I'm not really a fan of Fred VanVleet either. But yeah, and Jalen Green really struggled, man, like really. And part of me was just like, they're gonna win one because of Ime. Like I was just kind of like, maybe that's who I'm really supporting over in Houston. I have a lot of faith in him.
Maybe, but yeah. So I did take a couple of notes down from the game when I was watching. For the first note I had is like, this isn't your you know, the whole saying, like, this is, I forget how it goes, like, it's not your grandpa's Wolves or whatever. Like,
yeah.
So like, I think the Wolves are actually a good team, and I think so. I think like we should give this win a little bit more credit, because I think the Wolves are actually.
I agree.
And
I agree.
And like you mentioned,
but how much do you think not having Jaden McDaniels hurt them?
Oh, big. But like, it was big because Pascal and Barnes didn't have a good shooting night. So like, it's funny. I thought they both had good games because McDaniel wasn't playing, but they ended up having bad shooting nights anyways. But like, that's the thing. Like, those two had bad shooting nights, and we still technically won the game. If they have better shooting nights, we probably win by a lot more. And I think like they missed a lot of like chippy shots that they would have usually made. So I think this win's a lot more impressive. Like you mentioned, I don't think they're gonna face a bigger team than this. So like, I think Pascal, even with the spacing issues, Pascal and Barnes will have an easier time getting to the rim, or at least finishing at the rim. Because Gobert, he's still like a former defensive player of the year. Like, you're still thinking about him whenever you're around the rim at the end of the day. So like, yeah.
What'd you think of the game, FA? Sorry, I was like FA and Christian, and then I forgot to click on FA. My bad. What'd you think of the game? Good to get Darko's first win.
Yeah, I think I thought I was in already, and I was talking. I didn't know that you guys were hearing me, so I didn't know I was in. Yeah, I think we all need to understand that this is like the first game, right? They're still learning the offense. I saw one of your tweets during the game, right? That the players still think that they're in the old system because all the passing and all the turnovers, I think they're gonna get better. But Scotty had a hell of a game. He had a really great game, even though some of the shots didn't fall in. But he was doing everything else: the defense, the rebounding, the attack,
Yeah.
everything. So that is
Was he
encouraging,
was
right?
he your was he your player of the game, or was OG your player of the game?
I think he's close. It's like close to. I'll pick OG over Scotty because OG had Edwards, right? So because the guy was going off until they put OG on him. So
Edwards took
OG,
27 shots, by the way.
yeah.
That's crazy.
I think it was like 4 of 20 when OG was guarding him, or 4 of 18 or something like that. So that
I
was
agree.
really good.
27
Yeah.
shots
But
to get 24 points. Great.
but you understand Pascal, right, was able to make those two trees at the end because he had his legs, not like when he was playing like 40 something minutes.
I
So
was very impressed. Like I
yeah.
mean, if you had Pascal Siakam is going to shoot like 2 threes and make them like, I mean, what will he shoot 2 for 5? That's just, I mean, that's something. What, did he shoot 2 for 5 or 3
Starters
for?
went 12 for 26.
Who went?
Starters, 12 for 26.
Yeah, from 3.
Yeah. So they made 12 of the 14 threes.
So Pascal was 3 for 5 from 3. I mean,
Yeah,
oh my
Pascal
God.
3 from 5. Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm most encouraged by the attempts. I'm encouraged by 5 attempts. They made it a really big part that if this is going to work, Pascal, Scotty, you need to take these threes. Well, you know what? Scotty took
Four
he
trees.
he
Made
took
one of four.
4. He took 1 of 4. I had worries about tonight's game, largely because the last time he hurt his foot / ankle, his shooting went in the toilet. He looked great tonight, but I wonder if it's still bothering him. Maybe I'm making
I, th-
excuses for him, but
I think he's likely still bothering, but he's not gonna say it, right? But I'm
yeah, he's talked
encouraged.
about like, oh, like I can play through pain, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
But I'm like, bro, it's a game 1 of a season. You're not a championship contender. Why are you playing through pain? That's just, I mean, this has been my constant battle like for 2 years. I'm just like, why does this guy keep playing through pain? But hey, he could play. He got 5 blocks. He got up really high. Shit.
Mhm.
Like in the end, did you see him just trying to get out,
Yeah.
escape with the win? Like, my God, his head was like well over the rim when he went up for that rebound. I'm just like, geez.
Team's
And
gonna
this guy,
so
like,
good defensively. Oh my God. So
I
And
mean, when you see
can
him
tell in
in
the
the playoffs, like this guy has a completely different gear, right?
Mhm.
Like he is. I don't want to give fuel to the people who say like he's coasting in the regular season. He's not coasting, but there are gears, right? There are gears. Like people have this idea that Giannis goes like balls out every single night. If Giannis went balls out every single night, diving for balls, whatever, he would spend half the year on the injured list or like probably dead. It's just not possible to go balls out. They're not hustle players. It's those guys like Josh Okogie and Precious Achiuwa. They have to play like crazy, energy all the time because they don't play huge minutes. But for a guy like Scotty to be able to like just sort of dial it up, like the beginning of the fourth quarter, to me, very timely because you were like, oh, right. Like towards the end of the third quarter, the lead is kind of just getting away from you. And I just thought like, boom, presence, right? He just commands it. He runs the show, gets OG. Like I think it was OG. Like he got guys some easy looks. He's running in transition. It was OG a couple of times, right? So yeah, I think they both played well off of each other tonight. Can we give him co-player of the games? Can we give him
Yeah, I think we can.
How a guy gonna have 5 blocks, 2 steals, and you don't give him player of the game, man?
Exactly. I think they were all gassed, right? Because
have-
this system, they were all running around and everything was like it's like
I have
the
to
way
give it
Golden
to OG
State plays.
because like Darko mentioned, like Scotty was really shaky on offense in the first half with the turnovers. Like just because of that, like. But OG, I think he just played the perfect two-way game, honestly, from start to finish.
I don't know if he played the perfect two-way game. Like I love the guy, but like there's a lot of times where he's just making the wrong decisions in the half court, man. Like, I mean, he's slow to react. He's dribbling into double teams. He's committing offensive fouls. Like I think like the end result of OG's game is like it leaves such a good taste in your mouth because he makes the really big steal at the end. He picks up a couple of like threes. I'm just saying, like, the overall floor game from OG in terms of how he was seeing the court, in terms of how he was seeing the defense, in terms of like how he was manipulating the defense, it wasn't like the most assured game that I've seen from him. I've seen him play better than this for sure. But the defense was primo. Like he was great. He was great defensively.
And what is it? Special mention to Dennis as well too. He had a good first game.
He did. Yeah. Again, decision making a couple of times it was like but shot making was clutch. I think his defense was pretty underrated. I think there was a lot of pressure applied. Um and yeah, I just think like the defense worked on a string. I think him and Scottie had really good communication. And towards the end of the game, like instead of like it seemed like, yeah, I think like once these guys get to learn each other, they're gonna get better and better.
Oh yeah,
I really do. Yeah.
they look like sometimes they like just look so sloppy on the fast break as well too. I honestly feel like
God, yeah.
8 points on the board. Honestly, like I feel
I think they left at least 6 to 8 points on the board for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like things are looking up. Like yeah.
Yeah,
At least
no,
it was fun to watch the Raptors play again, right? Not those pound the ball like in the past, right? Where I think last
Yeah.
season I could count like with one finger how many games I really enjoyed. It was just you're just watching it because you're a Raptors fan.
I agree. I agree.
27 and 6. Yeah, that's good. Good start.
It is a good start. I think it's going to get better from here. You know, it's like it's one thing when you're introducing a couple of new players and a new coach. Completely different situation when you're completely introducing a new player, new coach, new system, new coaching staff, new point guard. Like there's so much newness here, right? You didn't have to introduce all this newness. You could have started guys who were here last year and Gary Precious or Gary and Jakob, but they're choosing to do it this way. I think this will be, you know, again, if you can get out of the first 30 games, 15 and 15, I consider this season a monumental success because I expect this team will get much better provided health stays intact the second half of the season. Not just because of the schedule, because they have a tough schedule, but like I think like if you can somehow escape tomorrow from Chicago 2-0 and then you win against Philly, to me, you are off to about the best start I could have imagined because I had today as a very 50-50 game. Very 50-50. Could have gone either way. You win one of these. Now just win the ones you're supposed to. Take care of your Wizards, take care of your Hornets, take care of these teams, and win like 20 to 30% of these 50-50 games. Boom, you're in the play-in.
That's
the
true.
odds makers are very, very bullish on the Raptors right now. Have you seen this? Raptors, Scottie Barnes went from 17 to 1 to 13 to 1 MIP odds. I guarantee you he does this a couple more times. It's going to jump to like 6 to 1 or 7 to 1 by next week. Darko Rajakovic went from 51 to 1 to 31 to 1.
Oh, wow.
And it might go up even more. From there, I'm happy to say I locked in at 51 to 1. And then I cashed out because I was so upset that he was playing Malachi Flynn over Jeff Doughton, and I lost faith in him. And then he inspired me again, and I was like, I went to check the bet again. It was like 41 to 1, and I'm like, okay, lock into this and don't touch it. Just locked in at 41 to 1, and today I looked at it was 31 to 1, and I'm like, okay, like people have woken up. I voiced my concern about this earlier. 51 to 1 was the worst odds. Like the odds makers had him as the least likely, one of the 5 least likely coaches to win. So it's interesting to see Vegas kind of coming around on the Raptors. It is usually, you know, the reason that I look at Vegas is not because I'm a compulsive gambler. I hardly ever gamble. Tonight was opening night, so I decided put down some money, whatever, see what happens. The reason I do it is because it is a really good barometer for fan opinion, success, where the money is going, and what odds makers think is going to happen. Because there's no way in hell they give you 51 to 1 odds if they really think he's going to win. So it'll be interesting to see how these odds change. And also,
it's a good team. This is a good team. Like
it's a really good team.
I'm a to my prediction of 45 wins. Like I think that's very achievable.
70, 74, 75 wins.
45.
Okay.
I'll go with 47 wins.
All right. I'm going to go with 47 and a half. Got you beat. Price is right. Price is right strategy. No, man. I mean,
this guy is having a hell of a good game for Derek Lively for Dallas. It's 6 of 6, 14 points.
Yeah, a couple posters too.
And Wemby is on foul trouble.
Like this team should be a top 5 defense, and like if they're even just like I think they where did they rate out as an offense last year? I think they were above, just right in the middle of the
They're
pack.
right in the middle. Yeah.
So like I think they're probably, if they are maybe like what, end up ranked 13th and with a top
Mhm.
defense, that's all you need right there.
Honestly, like I think this team has the tools, right? Just again, it's the tools. I think they have the tools to be like the
The Kings
top
of basketball.
five,
Oh.
top five, top four type of defense and a top 15 offense.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to be better than a top five, top 15 offense because of how talented the league is and how young some of your more talented players are. Talent is talent. Like vision, talent. This is what makes an offense go, right? Shea, Josh Giddey, like this is talent, right? You don't have a lot of that. And the talent you have, which is Grady, Scottie, they're super young. So they're far from where they're supposed to be, or they're at the end of your bench, like Otto to me. So to close this off, because we do have Maroon Prince and also Andre in queue, and I want to be able to get them on before we go to the OG Anonuby post game. To answer the last caller's thing, what is your all basketball IQ starting five? And I'll start with you, Christian. What is your starting five if your only thought is basketball IQ?
I
Like,
thought you said for the Raptors, right?
Yeah,
or
for the Raptors.
that's for the Raptors?
Yep.
For all the NBA.
No,
The
just the
Raptors.
Raptors. Just the Raptors.
I got Scottie Barnes, Otto Porter, OG,
OG is not part of it. Continue.
um,
Defense counts. It's basketball IQ, not offensive IQ.
there we
Oh,
go.
okay. All right. Okay, you're right.
Five. Who else is on this?
Damn, you're struggling, eh? You're struggling after three.
Okay, I'll go. Scottie Barnes, Jacopordo,
Oh yeah.
Easy.
All right.
Grady Dick, Thaddeus Young, and OG.
Thaddeus Young and OG. And Otto doesn't make your all. Wow. Okay.
I'll go with Odo instead of
Grady?
Thaddeus Young. No,
Okay.
Grady's basketball IQ. It's just
Grady's
slow right
basketball
now.
IQ is higher than Thaddeus Young. That's
Yeah.
crazy, bro. All
He's
right.
really high, he has a really high basketball IQ. The game is too fast for him right now, but he'll be all right.
Okay. Sean saying Scotty, Dennis, Otto, Thad, OG. All right. Interesting. Apparently, Clutch Tatum thinks Christian sounds like Scotty Barnes. Or do you think FA sounds like Scotty Barnes? Either way, I think you're fucking wrong, but okay. Okay. My starting basketball IQ, my starting IQ 5 would be, okay, let's see. Scotty, obviously. I'm happy we all started with Scotty. I mean, that should be evidence for something. Scotty Barnes, Otto, Jakob, that's three. Those are the only three that I'm like 100% they have to be on the court if this lineup is for real. Fourth. Okay, I'm going to go off the board here. Christian Coloco. All right. Clown me for that. Can I? No, you know what? I'm going to include my boy Jeff Doughton. Got to include Jeff Doughton. I know he's not on the team.
Jeff Doughton is not on the team. He's not on the team.
He's not on the team, but we're
No,
just
it doesn't. It doesn't count. We got to
just
pick someone from the team.
Damn it. He
We
would be on the team though. He would be on this team.
We got 18 players. Pick 5.
Fucking hell. All right. Otto.
Yes.
Otto. I'm struggling to find a fourth really smart player. So as much as I want to give OG his due, offensively, his basketball IQ is like very limited.
You made me pick OG. I wouldn't have picked OG if not for the defense. Well, go ahead.
Okay, fine. I'll you know what? Shit. I'm gonna go with Thad. And oh man,
Grady Dick.
Nah, I mean he's got great vision for a 19-year-old, but no. Basketball IQ. I'm gonna go with that and
Dennis Schroeder.
No. It's usually the point guards, right? You usually would assume point guards, but
What of Freeman Liberty?
no, he's a lot of raw instinct, but I don't know about basketball IQ. But like that Jeff Doughton quality, the Scottie Barnes quality of like you go there, no, you go you six plays down the right, you're gonna be there. I'm gonna go with Christian Coloco. I'm just gonna go with Christian Coloco because the way that this guy reads defenses, I mean, is honestly next level. I think he might just be a genius. They should do an IQ test with him. I wouldn't be surprised if he scored 168. All right. Dude loves Doughton and Otto. Secrets out of the bag, motherfucker. Absolutely, I love those guys.
Do
All
you
right.
think Coloco is gonna play this season?
I hope so, man. I really do.
You guys really think that OG has that low IQ on offense? To me, it's not
Yes.
that IQ is low. It's just like it's the capability. Like he can't, like he's processing things fine. He can't do it fast enough.
But that's IQ now. You can see the passes and things like that, right?
I mean, look, it's like
he makes the right plays.
I
Like,
mean,
he makes the right
but it's slow to make the right plays. Like you saw you saw what Scottie did today towards the end of the game when he wasted like almost 3 seconds, right?
Okay,
he
but he always does that though. That's not
but this is different. Like he knew the time and the time. They knew the time. Yeah, time and space.
Yeah, I mean, typically, there's like different schools of thought on this. Typically, you'd say your best person with the highest IQ is usually the most experienced player, probably the best passer, probably the best playmaker. It's difficult, right? I'm surprised nobody said Pascal, but I guess know the room, know the conversation. But like, I mean, I get it. He probably isn't there. But I think Jakob and Scottie and Otto are like, to me, the definitives. Everything else is open. You can make a case for Grady. You can make a case for Thad. I think it would be I think Thad is definitely on this list, though. He's played point forward. He's super student of the game. He's often telling guys at the end of the bench, like, hey, you should have been here instead of there, whatever. Like, this is a really important part of it. And people assume that every single person who's in the NBA is just studying tape all day, all night. It's just not true. There are a lot of guys who are here on instinct and they know just enough to get through. But then there are like real students of the game, like your Rajon Rondos, your Jeff Doughtons, your Chris Pauls. Guys,
you keep going to Jeff Doughton.
Bro, I'm on a promo parade until that guy gets signed. Okay, I am free publicity for free Jeff Doughton. And you know what? You know why I'm doing this? I'll give you one clue. You remember when Fred was here and Nick Nurse was here? For the most part, the media was kissing their ass, right? It was like, oh my God, they can do no wrong. Go back and read the coverage. Now they're gone. It's like, oh, new vibes. Everything's great now that the toxic people are gone. I don't like this idea of you're gone, so you're not good to me anymore. Jeff is on another team now. Y'all don't give a shit about Jeff Doughton. I interviewed his trainer, has 2,000 views. I don't care. I'm gonna keep promoting, huh?
If Jeff ends up in China in a month,
bro, he's not going to end up in China. I happen to have inside information that he will not end up in China. Don't worry.
It's not going to end up. It's going to get somewhere. You saw the press asking Dennis Schroeder that he's the first player since Kawhi that scored 20 points in his debut, and I love his response. Said, "No, we are not starting that."
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, interesting conversation, guys. As always, good first win for the Raptors. Thanks a lot for calling in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, let's go get the number 2. Thanks.
Let's go get number 2 tomorrow. Let's do it. All right. Peace.
Is it tomorrow?
Yes, it is tomorrow. Is it tomorrow or Friday? Someone let me know. Someone let me know in the chat. Was it tomorrow or Friday? They keep saying they're going to Chicago tomorrow. So I keep saying tomorrow. I think it is Friday and then Friday, Saturday. So I believe it's a back-to-back. They will face the Bulls and then the Sixers. So it is 3 games in 4 nights, but clearly not tomorrow, the next day. Okay. It is Friday. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. It is Friday. I need to basically stamp their entire schedule. Okay. Let's bring on Maroon Prince and Andre. Andre, what's up? Sweet background, man. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing today?
I'm great. You got a microphone and everything. Love it. It's like you're a podcaster.
I try. No, me and my friends are doing some fun stuff, but yeah.
What's your channel? Free promo.
I don't know. I don't have anything yet.
You know,
I don't think I don't know about that yet. So
well, this is a reason you should have a channel, because you would have had, I don't know, 3,000-4,000 people look at it. So,
I messed it up.
anyways, okay, we could have hooked you up, but you got nothing to hook up. That's too bad. All right, Maroon Prince, how you doing?
All right, guys, how you guys doing?
I'm good. Yeah, feeling good about the win. Who is your player of the game? I'm just curious.
Player of this game would be Dennis Schroeder. I know what to expect from everybody else. Dennis Schroeder just came to this team, has no continuity with anybody, came in as the most game-ready player today, saved us in a lot of situations. I think if you're a point guard, this is a big duty. You know, everybody's sort of fresh, new coach, new situation and everything, and he stepped up to the moment in a big way. We knew he's clutch. He's also, you know, in my opinion, one of the higher IQ players on this team, but he's a
That's fair.
performer, and he's showing it today.
That's fair too. I've often questioned his shot selection. I think he's gotten a lot on instinct. He's super athletic, right? He's very quick, very shifty, very bursty. I don't think he is one of the top 5 IQs, but you know what? He just led a team to, you know, a world championship for Germany, and he was the starting point guard and lead decision maker for them. So perhaps, you know, perhaps. But I agree. He had a good game. Andre, what about you? Who's your player of the game?
I was gonna say Schroeder as well, and Scottie, because 5 blocks against a team that is that tall and that athletic. I'm very surprised. I like Scottie's game. You know, he wasn't shooting very well, but he did everything else. You know, his defense was top notch. Really, I feel like he shut down. I wouldn't say shut down, but he played very good defense on Towns, forced him to take some really bad long threes. And I like Schroeder's, you know, like you said, you keep talking about point of attack defense, like it's night and day. Like this is something that I
He's
haven't
disruptive, he's active, he's
yeah.
quick, and it's
Schroeder
very
is
timely.
It's just the shooting, man. Yes, he got some shots in, but like that first quarter with that lineup, oh my god, I don't know. But
it
then
was so bad, yeah.
But then we were like, oh, let's get Gary in, and Gary makes a dud. Like, what was he doing today? Oh man. Anyways, that's my take on that.
Yeah. I think he played reasonably well, and I think the point of attack stuff is really, really important, because like when Fred was just giving blow-bys, like he was selling on defense, you know, it's just like, I mean, it wasn't even like he was conserving himself for offense, because he had in his mind probably that he needed to get the numbers and the stats and whatever, and he's playing 40 minutes a night. So towards the end of the game, he was just cooked, like cooked. He still did a lot defensively for you as a team defender, but that point of attack breakdown with a number of dynamic, quick, twitchy, you know, downhill guards, all of whom finish better in the paint than him, it puts so much pressure on your defense. It was constant rotations. And it puts so much strain on your defense, especially you got another guy back there, Pascal Siakam, who doesn't rotate super well. You have Gary Trent Jr., who doesn't rotate super well. So it puts so much pressure on OG and Scottie. I think they got shit on unnecessarily a lot last year. They were doing so much for this team before Jakob Poeltl got here to kind of keep them above water defensively. But of course, because Fred played so many minutes with the starting lineup, and because he did contribute in other ways, there's still like an analytics, you know, argument to be made that he's still an above average defender. But there's like, it's one thing to be like an above average defender, like Chris Paul has been an above average defender. It doesn't mean that he could ever guard centers. You know what I mean? So I think like at some point, either we got to do a video about it, like one of those real feature videos where I put like serious detail into the editing, but we need to talk about what is a great defender and what is not a great defender in the NBA, because there's this old school theory about bigs. You can never have a wing defender who's more valuable than a really good big defender, because the big defender stops like in the paint. But I'm like, bro, look at the shot diet. Look at the shot diet of most teams. Teams are launching like 30, 40, 53s a night. You cannot tell me that a wing defender cannot be more important than a big defender or a guard defender.
Yeah, and I wonder when you do that video, I hope you break down per position, like you said, wing versus big versus point guard, because I think it's very important that people see even a player like Marc Gasol, when everyone used to complain about him, but like he anchored our defense so well in those championship years, right? So yeah, I think that would be a great video. I'd love to sit and watch that, because I like watching things like that. But can I set you off, man? Can I set you off?
Set me off with what?
What does that mean?
What it means is I want to hear what you would say. What is your thoughts on if the 10 minutes that was given to goddamn Flynn today, what Jeff Doughton would have done with that 10 minutes? And how do you think the game, because I feel like the game would have been a +5 when it comes in points, just the way that he calms the game down. And then can you also talk about the fact that Flynn is not playing point guard anymore? He's playing 2 guard.
He is playing off the ball, so I
Yeah.
understand that reputationally you need a shooter there. Honestly, as much as I love Jeff, I wouldn't have played either of them tonight. You didn't need to. They had a lot of, they had big playmakers as well. They had, Kyle Anderson's playing as a point forward. You have Anthony Edwards handling the ball a lot. Carlton Towns at the top of the key sometimes. You didn't need to play a small. I mean, you're already playing Dennis Schroeder. What more do you need? I would have played Otto over both of them. However, if Darko Rajakovic has it in his head that he has to play point guards who are around his height, at the point guard position, and one of them always has to be on the court, well, in that case, I think there's no way in hell that Jeff Doughton could have played worse than Malachi Flynn. I think in order for him to play worse than Malachi Flynn tonight, maybe you would have had to put like ankle weights on him, or like 20-pound ankle weights, not like 5-pound, 10-pound. He would have had to play in 20-pound ankle weights, probably, I don't know, with a parka on, or like, I don't know. Like, I mean, for real, like I realize, when you take very, very unpopular, well, I don't say unpopular, it's pretty conventional at this point to be shitting on Malachi Flynn right now. But like, when you take a very hard stance on a player, you have always the potential to look completely ridiculous, right? If he'd come out tonight and scored 20 points, I swear to God, the overreaction to the opposite for me,
would be crazy.
I would never hear the end of it. For one game, forget 3 years. I would be like, one game. It's like, oh my God, Rob shitting on Malachi Flynn, right? But it's like, bro, like, I mean, I just have a different approach to evaluating what I think is a mental makeup of a player, right? And I think that, to me, it's like, if you were a first round pick, you're blessed. There are a lot of guys who are second round picks. They don't have the same opportunities. And playing with a second round contract is pressure. Team can waive you anytime. They can sign you to a two-way. They can ship you around. You're not buzzy. Probably you weren't a McDonald's All-American. Probably didn't play at the biggest school. Maybe you did play at the biggest school. You don't have a profile, so you really don't count. Guys like Javon Freeman Liberty and Jalen McDaniels, Jeff Doughton, like, the amount that they have to climb to become better than him, to me, that says a lot about who they are. And it's not to say that it says something about him. Sometimes you're just wrong. You know what I mean? Like Sheldon Williams. I love Sheldon Williams in at college. The landlord, Sheldon Williams. I loved him. Not an NBA player. Not a good one, at least. Not for long. Right? It happens. He was a top 5 pick. Marquise Chris. There's so many guys. Like this. You're just wrong. It's okay. Just admit it. Move on. Why do we need to drag this shit out? Like, it's like,
oh, that's true. Sheldon Williams' wife was a better hooper than him.
Way better. Candace Parker, amazing. Shout outs to the Aces for winning the WNBA championship again. They are great. I really like Kelsey Plum. I had a crush on her like 3 years ago. It was a really weird admission. She got married, but like, yeah. I think she's awesome. Asia Wilson is friggin' incredible. But this is not an Aces post-game reaction. What would your all IQ team be? I'm curious, Andre. What would your all IQ 5-man rotation be for the Raptors? I'm just curious. Like, if Darko Rajakovic has like a really high leverage moment where you need the smartest basketball players on earth, or at least on your team, on the court, is Malachi Flynn in your all basketball?
No.
Okay.
No way. I think what everyone's been saying, it's Scottie. I'd put Pascal on there. I'd put
wow.
It's just because the personnel, right?
Maroon Prince is not upset, and he's not pleased with the.
Oh, what I know, but like
he's not pleased with
Siakam's strength. Like, it's just not. We all know this.
He's definitely an instinctual basketball player. Like, a lot of like what he does well is like, it's like feel. He has a great feel. But
okay,
IQ is like,
here's the thing, right? You like, because what you told me, you asked me, is like, you need 5 guys out there with high IQ. So what is Siakam's strengths? I think, okay, when he's on the run, when he's in open court, he does very well in that. So why not play to that advantage with really four really smart players that push the ball that can move it. So that's why
I see what you're saying.
that's why I say I'm not saying more like, oh, he's the smartest player, but when you look at the smart players on our team, that's Scottie. You said Otto, and the other one is like
Jakob.
I still would like, you still got to score and you still got to play. I think
no one in your lineup can shoot, bro, except for Otto. Like
but
you got sad IQ, space in the corners right now.
You said high IQ, right? So
yeah, but then you putting Pascal on for some other reason. So I'm like, all right, are you trying to construct a reasonable basketball lineup? Because if you're trying to construct a reasonable basketball lineup, like I feel like you got to put Grady or Garrett Temple or someone who can shoot on this lineup. Because all your super smart players, that's a conundrum for the Raptors, right?
Even Grady would have been nice, but like you said it too, like the game is way too fast for him right now. Just way too fast.
But you know what? It's like, okay, so here's the thing. Grady's been playing basketball longer than Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
That's fact. He's been playing basketball longer than Pascal. And he's 19 years old. Pascal's 29 years old.
And you said he played baseball, right? Like he has another sport.
I don't know if he played baseball, but he has played other sports for sure.
Yeah.
It was baseball.
It was baseball. Mm-hmm. Pascal, it's like there's a lot of instinctual stuff. Basketball IQ is very much linked to actual IQ too, like you.
Well, wouldn't you say basketball IQ would be like situationally, like how you handle a double team, for example? Is he good at that? No, he's not.
I hear you. That's for sure. Like, I mean, it's like processing speed versus knowledge, and somehow you have to merge those two things together into something tangible that you can use on a basketball court. You know what I mean? So yes, you have to understand like the prime example of basketball IQ, Chris Paul, right? Chris Paul, Rajon Rondo, LeBron, Draymond, right? Jeff Dowden. I'm just gonna keep putting him in the conversation until people pay attention to it.
Why don't you feel Dennis Schroeder is one of the top 5 basketball IQ guys for our team? I mean, in terms of what his assignment was tonight, it was a pretty tough assignment.
Just as a overall PSA for all Raptor fans, it's Schroeder, not Schroeder. I've said Schroeder. The broadcast team says Schroeder. It's Schroeder. I checked with my German friend. Shout outs to Laura Lamas. It is Schroeder. So yes, it's actually Schroeder, but I'm probably butchering that somehow, and I'm sure most of you would as well. So let's just go with Schroeder. Yeah. Also, how many times have I heard Rajakovic?
Can you pronounce it for us, please?
Okay, you can go one of two ways. Rajakovic is not them. So Rajakovic or Rajakovic.
J is a Y sound?
Yes. It's a yeah sound. So yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, so correct-ish would be how they announced it. Let's say like the most correct. I mean, Serbian names are funny, right? You read a name like Nemanja, it's Nemanja. Like most people are like Nemanja, right? Nemanja, right? And it's Nemanja. Like it's a completely different. The stress is different. It's different. So, yeah, I think like most immigrants are used to people kind of consistently butchering their last names. It's a sad fact about North American reality for all immigrants, but yeah, it's I personally, I don't know if he minds it, but like I've heard people say Rajakovic. It's Rajakovic is probably closer to the actual pronunciation, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, I've completely lost my train of thought. But why do I think that Dennis Schroeder is not a super high IQ player? I've watched a lot of him, man. I've watched a lot of him in Indiana, in Atlanta, and I've just always found him to be a little bit like a Pascal Siakam version of a point guard. Like very instinctual, not the greatest shooter. Sometimes, will make erroneous reads. Sometimes has questionable shot diet. Sometimes has a mental lapse in terms of defensive awareness. Sometimes he loses his guy, but on instincts, as an instinctual basketball player, that has always been his strength. And since the youth level has always been his strength, and he's extremely feisty competitor. And the more I've gotten to hear him in these pressers and stuff, the more I get like an appreciation for him as a person as well. So there's a lot to like. It's hard to say that someone who's played point guard in the NBA almost exclusively for 10 years is not one of the most high IQ players, but I just think Otto is on a completely different level. Yeah, but I would probably put him over Grady, but I wouldn't put him over
Of course, there's no argument for Grady. Like it's no, FA's argument was pretty silly. I wouldn't hold him to it.
Yeah,
Grady
I mean,
just got into the NBA. He can barely hold it on his own on the court for 2 minutes. Like
yeah.
a cerebral player can manage more than that.
Yeah, and I mean, like the thing about OG, right? Like when people say like OG has like phenomenal basketball IQ because of his defensive instincts. Can you imagine if OG, if you could take, let's like we perform brain surgery, and let's pretend this is how brain surgery actually works. You take OG's brain out and you put Draymond's brain in OG. Can you imagine the player? Can you just imagine the player? It's he would be an MVP candidate. That's the gap. So how can a player that has such a significant gap with a player who is basically exactly his size, how can you know what I mean? Because
OG's like a top 10 physical tools guy in the NBA, right? Like he doesn't lack anything with the physical tools except for the coordination, but that's probably mental.
I wonder if it is mental as well. Yeah. But yeah, like it's just, you know, it's hard for me to ignore the presence of timing in the equation of IQ, right? Like, I mean, when we measure IQ, we don't give people infinite amount of time to take the test, right? It is a quickness thing. There is always going to be an element of quickness. You know, if okay, let's say you give me an IQ test and one person has, you know, an hour or 2 hours to do it and they score 164, you can't give the other person 8 hours to do the same thing and then assume that the results will mean anything. It is always going to be to me basketball IQ, general IQ in general, and IQ has just been a very hot button topic for a lot of people because some people would just swear it's completely overrated and blah blah blah. It doesn't factor this and that. I feel differently. I've always felt a little bit differently about this. My father had an incredibly high IQ, and I felt it in our interactions. And I have a pretty high IQ, and I feel it in my interactions with people who don't. And one of the things that I consistently realize is that people with high IQs have an incredibly, I won't say incredibly easy time, but an easier time than most putting abstract concepts together to form meaningful conclusions. Accurate.
What do you think about people with really high IQs, how they sort of like meet other people where they're at? Are there people that refuse to do so and come across as contentious or cantankerous because of that? There's like some sort of a social element to having a really high IQ. How you
So
navigate
here's the funny thing. So you're saying this, right? And my first thought was, I wonder if he's talking about himself.
No, I've watched. I probably have watched
I
more
was
of you
wondering the
than
same
most
thing
people on
too.
this channel because I don't know if you remember, but I've been commenting on your stuff since you were at 500
Correct.
subs. Like I've been here the whole way.
You have.
So I've seen you go through this period of learning how to navigate your really high IQ with, you know, how you're talking to your people on your channel and stuff like this. So, like, I'm just wondering
Well,
because you've
listen,
had to
like,
go through this.
I have, of course, I have. I think everyone does at some point. You know, you do have to realize that, but doing so with a heart, as opposed to like, I think you have to feel this one out, right? Nobody wants to be made to feel stupid, ever, regardless of who you're speaking to. Nobody wants to end an interaction with that. So, look, my dad was one of those guys who was just too smart for his own good. It completely disabled him in terms of his ability to interact with anybody or his ability to just work through the world. When my father passed away, the only positive thing that anyone could say about him was smartest guy I ever met. Smartest guy I ever met. It's the only thing I heard. It's broke as fuck, though. Broke as fuck. Couldn't manage anybody. Couldn't interact with people. Couldn't manage relationships. This is the downside of high IQ or genius IQ. And I've met people like this as well. People who may or may not be on the spectrum. It's difficult.
So
Could
a
I
follow-up
ask
question
Rob?
for you is Jeff Downton dealing with that issue in his career?
I wonder if, you know, my interaction with his trainer led me to believe that Jeff sees the world very differently, something that I, of course, relate to and therefore greatly empathize with. It is difficult, of course, to understand. Sometimes, you know, people with incredible cerebral gifts can often make rather glaringly obvious mistakes to the average person. The average person sees it as like, why in the world, once you signed with Garrett Temple, once Garrett Temple signed, once Malachi's option was picked up, how could you possibly not see the writing on the wall, right? If you're so smart, you understand how business works. I think with high intelligence, sometimes blind spots can form because things become too big in your mind. For him, probably, possibly, from what I've understood, his primary focus must have been, I'm so much better than the guy ahead of me in the rotation. Clearly, they believe in me. They've shown a lot of faith in me. They've said I'm part of the future. I'm better than this guy ahead of me. It's not a debate. I don't think anyone debates whether or not Malachi is better than him. He's not. So you become blind to that. You're like, why wouldn't they give me an offer? You miss the business part because the player part becomes too big in your mind. I think that's the case for a lot of people, who are really smart. They can't get past, like, how could you possibly miss that? And they're just like, wait, social cues, other cues, environmental cues, chill on this point that you just keep bringing back and forth. Sometimes you meet someone who's like really smart at a party and you say something really absurd. They're still thinking about it 2 hours later. I promise. Everyone else has moved on. They can't get past how you made that connection. It becomes a blind spot. It's too big to ignore. I'm just describing like the experience of it. And I think, to answer your question, Andre, I think what I've learned both from my dad and both from my experiences, with this channel is that everyone communicates differently. Like everyone hears and hears things differently. And there are people out there that we may not necessarily think are very smart that are really smart. I talked to a media person. I'm not going to put this one on, put this person on blast, but if you ever hear about this, please be happy I'm not naming your fucking name. Who made a serious case to me that Scottie Barnes was probably really stupid, right? And I said, "What are you basing this on?" And this was like in his first year. I was right around the time he was drafted. And I said, "What are you basing that on?" He's just like, you've heard him, right? And I was just like, you motherfucker. And it pisses me off. Of course it pisses me off because there's a cultural bias, there's a racial bias, there's so many things that go into why someone speaks the way they speak. But, that same conversation happened on this channel like literally 3 months later when someone called in and said Fred has really high IQ and Scotty's lucky to have a teammate like him and stuff. And it was just like, are you suggesting that Fred VanVleet is teaching him basketball? And it's just like, we started talking and it was like this really old school Canadian guy. I don't need to paint the picture, exactly who I'm describing. And he's like claiming that he's an Olympics coach. And it was just like, bro, like you can't see my legs. And if I put my arms down, you can't see my hands. I have my hands down. I swear to God, I was grabbing onto something. I was like, bro, please don't fucking let this man continue talking for one more second because I'm going to snap. He said, if you presented this book to Scottie Barnes, he wouldn't even know what planet he was on or something like that. And I was just like, bro, like you have no clue. So people are completely different. We misread people all the time. There are a lot of people out there who are really smart. I think Scottie's really smart. You really, and I think Christian Koloko is really smart. To me, those two guys, and I think Grady's really Grady. Like this is where like when I listen to these guys like answer questions, I'm just like, there's so many connections going on in their heads right now.
I will say that Grady strikes me as an AAU track guy who is actually pretty intelligent. He's like the next generation of what high IQ looks like is these guys who are understanding offense a little bit differently. Scotty's from that AAU track as well. You can kind of tell with these new guys. So I do understand what people are saying. I just think if you don't understand the NBA game yet, I just can't call you an NBA high IQ player.
But it's basketball IQ. It's not NBA IQ. So the movement and the sets and whatever.
But it counts.
So you're talking, right? It does.
No,
I'm
sure saying does. Like Dennis Schroeder, for example, has Euro IQ and NBA IQ, making his overall basketball IQ probably different than another guy. I would say high, but you would at least know it's a bit more full.
Is it possible that you're using the terms knowledge and IQ interchangeably? Because I don't think that they are necessarily the same thing.
Well, yeah, I wanted you to.
So I grade point guards differently altogether.
Yeah, I wanted you guys to, because some people are saying in the chat, you're talking about IQ, and like, can you define what basketball IQ is? Because in my mind, like I hear what you're saying, there's there's different types of people in this world, right? There might be people that are really book smart. There's people that are very street smart. There's people that are really smart when it comes to basketball, but when it comes to like product design or something like that, they wouldn't know, or wouldn't be able to break it down and understand it, or development, right? So define basketball IQ, because I feel some players have high basketball IQ, which you can see with the way that they move without the ball, with the ball, talking. But then there's players that are not as vocal, but they just seem to be in the right position. A old coach of mine, a baseball coach, I remember him always talking about being in the right position and why people have stressed that. And it's like doing the simple things make you better. So I just want to hear what your thoughts are on the definition of IQ, basketball IQ.
So to me, basketball is a very simple game. It is one of the most simple games. American football is far more complicated for me, but basketball is simple. And Scottie has often described basketball as a simple game as well. It's simple for him, but it's not simple for a lot of people. At the end of the day, you have the target never moves. The basket never moves. It's the 9 players and yourself that are constantly moving. And it's the creative ways in how they are moving and the patterns that those movements create, thus unlocking other future patterns and other future movements, that is effectively creating whether or not you are going to have a chance at converting on a basket. And really, it's just moving dots. It's you, your 4 teammates, your 5 opponents, and how those pieces interact. It's like a chessboard, right? I think Scottie sees it that way. I think Magic saw it that way. I think LeBron sees it that way. The concept here is understanding how one thing impacts another thing before the impact has happened, right? Larry Bird understood that if I throw this pass to this person in 2 possessions, in 2 seconds from now, this other person is going to be open because I make this decision. That ability to call it forward vision, seeing 2-3 plays ahead, et cetera, it's just not for everybody, because the game is, while remarkably simple, is also incredibly complicated in the sense that the pieces can move in so many different ways, right? So if the big is Karl-Anthony Towns, well, Karl-Anthony Towns has certain, patterns that you have to is a completely different variable than if the big is Anthony Davis. So if it's Anthony Davis, right, there's certain things you're going to be able to do to Anthony Davis that you can't do to Karl-Anthony Towns, and vice versa, right? So being able to make that calculation on the fly before the other team can ultimately is basketball IQ. Magic Johnson knew where you were supposed to be before you knew you were even on the court. So that level of intelligence always, almost always, leads to a superstar.
So if someone like Allen Iverson, would you say he has a high IQ, or was he just like a really good scorer basketball player?
I think he was a good-ish IQ player with some
Yeah.
very stubborn ideals about basketball. So just conceptually, he had stubborn IQ, concepts about basketball. But it would be very difficult to make an argument that he was a low IQ player. He was a very good playmaker. He wasn't overly efficient, but he understood his offense. I think there are coaches who are on record saying he was one of the smartest players that they'd ever been around, and they were quite surprised when they met him, because again, the reputation with the do-rags and the rap music and the tattoos and the field goal percentage is, you're expecting a guy to come in and talk like he's never fucking heard of basketball. But he was a very smart player. Same thing with Kobe. When Kobe was airballing all of those threes, and when he was younger and demanding that he take over the offense and stuff, and people thought he was a chucker or whatever, it didn't change the fact that he was incredibly smart when it came to the game of basketball. He learned even more. He became more knowledgeable. He became more self-aware. See, the element of this that's often missing when we call someone a low IQ player is they lack self-awareness. Self-awareness has nothing really to do with IQ. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who are really smart that have very little self-awareness. See, because at the end of the day, as I said, there's 10 variables. If you vastly overestimate the one variable, constant is you, right? So if Precious Achua thinks that he is the best defender in the NBA or one of the best defenders in the NBA, which is, a fabrication of, I don't know, then there's a complete miscalculation at all times when he's on the basketball court that his self-awareness is so low. If Dennis Schroeder thinks he's a better shooter than Steph Curry, you're screwed. Because again, at all times, reality or a reality check is required to make accurate calculations, right? I remember, when we were in high school and we used to have debates about, certain players on the team, Raptors team, and how many points we would score on them if we faced them up to 11. And my constant answer was 0. The chances are I would score 0. Even if I thought I was good at a time, even when I was shooting super hot, I was like, the chances of me scoring are probably 0. Eventually, I did play against an NBA player, and I scored 1. But he was a retired NBA player who had been retired for a few years, and then he dusted me like 11-0, and he was shooting from like 45 feet, and I was blown away by the talent. But my point is, that is the part of the game that people don't understand, is like, you actually have to be self-aware as well. Scottie has to know that he's not a good shooter, and he has to know which of his teammates are, so that he can make an accurate calculation that when I'm open, is someone slightly less open? So what are the odds? And Scottie's making those calculations right away. 2 defenders in the paint, 1 defender sagging off of me, 1 defender is 7 feet away from OG Anonuby. My chances of making this 3-point shot or driving into the paint and converting 2 points, what's higher? Him hitting a contested 3, right? Or me initiating the offense and trying to score right now? And what can I do to edge the odds in his favor? Maybe I can drive, look like I'm about to, score, or maybe I can pass to Pascal so it can misdirect the defense, shift it a little bit, and then I to Pascal. How many times is Scottie passing to a guy and literally instructing him on who to pass to? It happens all the time. Watch last year. It happened all the time. He would pass to a guy on the break, and you see him saying up. And when the guy doesn't pass, you see his body language. He's literally stamping his feet, yelling at the guy. So that is the level of like basketball IQ.
Scottie's special. I think Scottie is like
he's basically artificial intelligence. Like,
yeah,
he's
he's
super
not
smart.
normal.
No, there's nothing normal about this. You could put me in a gym with 10,000 basketball players and Scottie Barnes, and I would bet money he would be the smartest player in that gym. He's very smart. It's like, I don't want to say generational, because I think that term is a little bit overused, and there are a lot of really smart players coming into the NBA right now, but he's certainly like, I think the odds of finding a player as smart as Scottie, as good as Scottie, are like 1 in every 3 drafts. It is a rare thing, for sure.
You could tell from his passing ability that even his vision is way ahead of his time. Like he can't
His skill
fulfill
work
his vision yet.
His skill work is so far behind right now. Yesterday I watched Nikola Jokic play basketball. People often say Scottie, has a lot of the things that Jokic has, whereas Jokic is a bigger player. Scottie is, but they call him mini Jokic. Well, I would like to ask, if Nikola Jokic right now, if we could bring him on the show and be like, hey, man, we're going to trade you. I will get you 2 inches less in height and 1 inch less in wingspan, and you get all of Scottie Barnes' defensive instincts, all of Scottie's athleticism, speed. I mean, we're not talking MVP anymore. We're talking GOAT. We're talking the greatest player of all time. If he had Scottie's athleticism and he lost 1.5 inches to get it, he would be the greatest player of all time. So I think, it's difficult when a player is young to know when they are about to tap, right? When they're about to tap the peak. It's very difficult. Sometimes you think year 2, year 3, you're like, oh, this is when most players are like, well, that didn't happen with DeMar. DeMar's like peaking in year 7, year 8, right? Some players, they have a steady growth. Some players have like this sort of sudden snap, like where it's just like year 4 to year 5. That's the jump. They're 2 times better now. League is over. I wonder what Scottie's top end potential will be. But my thought on this is that we haven't even touched it yet.
Well,
this is not even close.
The unique thing with Scottie, as compared to a guy like Cade Cunningham or Josh Giddey, for example, is Scottie can do it on defense as well. Like he's making those same advanced reads as a defensive player. And
I don't think Cade is a bad defender at all. I think
he's not making Scottie level reads. Definitely not. I guess a weak side help defender.
But Scottie is okay. Yes, that number one. Number two, he's a lot smaller than Scottie, and he's a lot less athletic than Scottie. So he doesn't have his gifts.
That's fair.
The issue that I have with Cade is he's nowhere near the basketball IQ that Scottie has. He is, however, incredibly mature and really well spoken. And I remember my girlfriend and I, we were watching some of his pre-draft interviews, and she's like, "Oh, he's going to be a really good player." And I'm like, I wonder if every single person who's met him since the age of 14 had the exact same reaction. Because when you listen to him talk, you get a feeling that Cade Cunningham is going to be like a superstar. But when you watch him play and you really, really study it, you're like, these reads aren't Scottie Barnes level
he
reads.
Plateaus. Yeah, he plateaus. And that's my judgment from watching him. I think Josh Giddey is the one that actually stands out to me as a passer. This guy's vision is actually the real deal with him.
Josh has a completely different level of feel and vision for the game for sure, and I think that it is it's rare as well. And it's funny, I'm saying 1 in every 3 draft class. I don't think that was in Scottie's draft class, right? So I mean, you have Alperen Sengun in that draft class as well. Also has pretty interesting feel for the game, especially for the position. I'm curious if you were building the Detroit Pistons, let's just say Troy Weaver gets fired, which is long overdue, so long overdue. I hand you the Pistons roster and I say you can only keep one of Asar. It's Amen Thompson there, right? No, it's Asar. So you can only keep one of Asar, Jaden Ivey, and Cade Cunningham. Who are you keeping?
You can only keep one?
Mm-hmm. You can only keep one. We're trading the other two. Who would you keep?
I'm still keeping Cade because I would just build the rest of the team better around him, surround him with shooters and one good big. But Asar is really compelling to me.
Yeah, I would keep Asar. I know the sample size is very limited.
I like Jaden Ivey, but yeah, I think Asar has that talent, the foresight. I like him.
Yeah. I think
I think he's a generational defensive player. That's what stands out to me. He looks like an absolute menace.
I think this is going to be hot take territory for some people. I think Asar Thompson can be one of the 25 best players in the NBA someday. I don't see that upside for anybody else on that team. Not Cade, not Jaden. I think his ability, and I talked to a friend of mine who's doing beat reporting for the Detroit Pistons, and he said, I haven't seen a player come into this organization and work as hard as Asar has in a really long time. And he's been there for about 5 years. So
it's still the Pistons, though. I'm factoring that.
It's still the Pistons, but they have some stability now with Monty there. I mean, I think he's a little bit overrated personally as a coach. I think he's a little bit overrated, but he's all right. He's not a bad coach. I certainly wouldn't put him on the bottom half of the league, which is exactly where I would have put Dwayne Casey last year, and definitely the bottom half of the league of coaches. So it's a bit of an upgrade there. And they're going to be a little bit more competitive than they've been. So hopefully he doesn't have to endure the level of losing, especially if Cade stays healthy. But I think that his long-term upside as a two-way player, I feel similarly about Bilal Coulibaly, but maybe a little less optimistic about his offense. But we'll see. But I think there are two players that I think this draft is going to be phenomenal. I think really we're going to look back on this draft a few years from now and really wonder what the Raptors could have done with a top 5, top 6 pick.
Agreed. And quite frankly, watching Grady progress through summer league, through preseason, I've been really impressed at his quick release shooting ability. I think once he gets his feel for the game, his legs a little bit more strength, that shot is real. With quick release, he can get it off really quick and it's pure. And we haven't had a player like him in a long time.
I think he could be really good. I think the upside argument, right? Max level upside. So we talk about what is this player in the 99th percentile outcome versus what is the likelihood that this player has the mental makeup to reach that 99th percentile outcome. We can all talk about the gifts of Bilal Coulibaly or Victor Wembanyama or even Precious Achiuwa or James Wiseman, right? I haven't seen a center run the court like James Wiseman in a really long time. He never knows where he's going. Never knows when to stop. It's how do you estimate that, right?
He didn't even play today.
It's the same thing with Jonathan Kuminga. You compare Jonathan Kuminga and Scottie Barnes purely as athletes, it is not a competition, right? But you start talking about things other than athleticism, you start to get a very different idea about even their top level impact. So whereas I think Grady is a very high floor player, as in I don't see a situation in which this guy's not a starter. It's like CJ McCollum, right? It's like that type of situation where it's like, okay, he's not going to be a superstar, probably, likely. He's not going to be a superstar, but he's probably never going to be less than at least a 1 to 2 time All-Star. That is great value at the 13th overall pick. It is, however, nowhere close to the max level upside of some of the guys picked at the top of this draft, which is like 6-time All NBA. So if you trust your development staff and if you knew you were going to overhaul everything and bring Jama and guys like this back, then my only curiosity there would be, what might you have done with the top 6 pick? Would you have picked a Bilal Coulibaly and had him here now to create an even bigger defensive nightmare for other teams, right? Because Bilal probably, I don't know if Bilal plays for you, but certainly I can make a very compelling case right now that Bilal Coulibaly is as capable of impacting a basketball game right now as Precious Achiuwa.
More capable.
Probably more
capable. He's more
Yeah.
capable.
Yeah, and I mean he's young. He's young. So it's like, so you or an Amen Thompson or an Nassar Thompson or guys like this, Scoot Henderson. I mean, shit. Like, can you imagine a backcourt of Scottie and Scoot? Like, it would have Scoot and Scottie. It's like it writes itself. It would have been marketing genius. Every brand would have wanted a piece. Anyway, so I'm happy with Grady. No shade, absolutely not. I don't see superstar there. That level of upside does not exist there. If you'd be very happy if you're the Raptors, if this guy turns into Gordon Hayward part 2, you are sitting very happy, right?
I see Bogdanovich type vibes. I mean, I think he's going to be a little bit better on ball than any of us had assumed. I'm certainly feeling optimistic about that as compared to when he was drafted.
Right.
But I just think he's probably going to actually end up being the best shooter of the draft, and we're going to be happy we got that at least.
I mean, he's big, and I think how well he can progress as a ball handler, I think he's already shown me a little bit more ball handling than I expected him to have. Like, there's a lot of things that he did in Summer League where I was very impressed. I actually wouldn't mind him having some on-ball reps. See, that's the thing. When you're not rooting for a contender, these are the things that you need as a fan. Like, I need to be settled that Grady Dick is getting his 5 to 10 minutes a night to develop, because you just spent the 13th overall pick on him, and I think that he deserves it. Now, obviously, Darko Rajakovic does not agree right now, which is why he's playing 2 minutes. But I expect these minutes to go up towards the end of the year. Again, totally different coaching regime, totally different coaching system. I get it. But one of the things that Nick Nurse did last year with Thaddeus Young initially was he'd made a plan for his older players to be ready towards the second half of the season. That they were going to give guys like Delano Banton and Malachi, etc. But then they were going to have a second season for the veterans. I don't know if that directive came down from the front office. If it did, then that might explain why guys like Boucher, Thaddeus Young, and Otto Porter might be your post-trade deadline guys who play when you're starting to get ready for like a serious playoff push.
I agree. And I think to your point, if it was Gary Trent Jr. starting instead of Dennis, you wouldn't have the redundancy issue off the bench of Gary Trent Jr. being the logical first shooter off the bench as opposed to Grady. It'd be better if it was Dennis and Grady being the guard options off the bench with, Gary in the starting lineup.
Absolutely. And I think, Dennis Schroeder could potentially shred second units even more so than he did today. It's not even a matter of starting and not starting. I think a lot of that comes down to egos and contracts and business and marketing. But these are not stars. Whether you're talking Jakob Poeltl or you're talking Otto or you're talking Precious or Dennis, none of these guys are stars. This is not. I don't think Fred VanVleet was a star. I don't think Fred VanVleet was above coming off the bench. I really didn't.
You don't think he was above coming off the bench? I think he would have thrown hissy fits every post game.
No. I'm saying he wasn't above coming off the bench. Not how he wouldn't have liked it. I'm saying that if I was coaching the team, the first thing I would have done was bring him off the bench because my bench production was absolutely suffering. And he and Scottie were not necessarily, I mean, analytics say they were fine because Scottie needs shooting around him, right? So put a shooter in the starting lineup with him. That makes sense. There have been some small sample sizes of small samples of Scottie running point which have looked great, and then others which have not looked so great. I think you saw even a bit of that tonight, right? There's a couple of rushed passes. You need to give him these reps. He needs to have these reps. It's so important to be able to sort of stretch your legs as an initiator, because that's the other thing that maybe I didn't talk about earlier, Andre, with the IQ part, is you learn better from your mistakes than the average person too. That is a very, very important
Yes.
thing. You
I
know,
think rookies, young players, point guards need to be able to make maybe the 2 or 3 mistakes a game so that they can learn from them, because I think experience is the best teacher in this, especially in basketball. A field
absolutely.
game. Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember I watched a kid who was playing he was grade 6 or grade 5, and he committed like 8 turnovers. And I loved every one of them. And I told my friend, I'm like, this guy's gonna be really good. And he's turned out to be pretty decent. Like, it was 2 years ago. But like, because he was just slightly not developed enough to make the shot, make the pass, but he was seeing it. You could see you could see the spark, and he had the courage to see, react, and make the pass. Yeah, maybe someone's bigger than him right now. Maybe his hands, muscles haven't developed properly, but at least he's seeing and he has the courage to make it. A lot of guys, they don't see it. And if they do see it, they don't react to it. And if they do react to it, they won't throw it because they're afraid to make a mistake. Whether you watch LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, KD, Scottie Barnes, whoever the hell you watch, the youth level, they're all very willing to make mistakes and look very silly. And they all have a couple of air balls and a couple of missed dunks and some time where they're going to try something kind of crazy. And that's greatness stretching its legs. Yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks a lot for calling in. Any closing thoughts?
Just one last question. Just
Sure.
your thoughts about Boucher not getting any minutes, and if that's going to mess with his like mental psyche, because I don't think he fit in this game at all. But I think they asked the coach a question about it, and he's like, "Oh, he'll get in." So, what are your thoughts on that? And yeah, thanks for doing this. That's all.
My pleasure. Maroon Prince, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really talked about this as a community to the full extent that we could, but Jakob plays about 24 minutes a game if you're using this game as a model. That leaves another half of the center minutes and presumably most of the closing minutes. And we probably could have a really strong closing lineup, if, for example, with Gary Trent Jr. and Dennis, complementing the 3 big wings we've got. But I'm really curious, like, for most teams, is that the best option we've got, or do you still think that Precious in there in place of presumably Dennis, with Gary Trent Jr. as the primary shooting offering, like, is that the best we've got? Like, I'm really curious about this closing lineup. I don't know why Darko was bringing Pirtle to close this game.
Yeah.
And if he was really intent on bringing him in, why didn't he call a timeout or something else to get him in? He was at the table for about 3 minutes to close the game. So, like, is he just winging it? Like, what's going on with that? Like, his indecisiveness is really making me nervous, but it's first game, so who cares?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot for your comments, guys. I'll respond to both when you jump off. Cool. Okay, so to Andre's question about specifically Chris Boucher, I don't think so. Chris Boucher was on record today saying that he and Darko have fantastic conversations, and with Nurse it was different. I do wanna just read you out my. Okay, if you're not following us on Instagram, this might make you laugh. If you are following us on Instagram, you've already seen this, but this is my hypothetical what conversations used to be like with Nick Nurse, and this is what conversations are now like with Darko Rajakovic. So the quote from Chris Boucher is, I text Darko all the time. Nick, question mark. I texted him a couple of times, but the conversation was not the same at the end of the day. People are different. So this is how I imagine. This is my imagination of what a conversation between Chris Boucher texting Nick Nurse went like. Chris, hey coach. Nick Nurse, new phone. Who dis? Coach, it's your Haitian sensation, coach. Nick Nurse, how did you get my number? And okay, now this is the conversation between Chris Boucher and Darko Rajakovic. Hey coach, how are you? Hey Chris, I'm super awesome. How are you today? How is your family? Dang, coach. 3 heart emojis, by the way. Dang, coach. I've been waiting for a coach to heart emoji me my whole life. I love all my players, Chris. What do you think I can be in the league, coach? The sky is the limit, Chris. Never stop believing. I think you can be a cross between Magic Johnson and Kevin Durant. Damn, homie. Ain't no one that high on me, not even my mama. You will win Defensive Player of the Year awards and beat 6-man Hall of Fame super talent. Are you high, coach? I am high on life, Chris, and on your tremendous potential. Okay. Okay. God. Bring the energy, right? Look, I've gone back and forth on this. I think he's a little too high on some of his players personally. I'm not even trying to clown the guy. I appreciate his, but as I mentioned earlier, right? You got to be real with your players, right? So if they're not a good shooter, you got to let them know they're not a good shooter. You can't be gassing them up like they're next Larry Bird, right? I mean, he's already said that this guy has the potential to be Defensive Player of the Year. That guy has Defensive Player of the Year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is what I'm missing in my life. Maybe because I don't gas people up like this. I don't be like, oh, you're the smartest person I ever met. I'll be like, no, you're pretty stupid, but I think you have potential, right? So maybe this is something that Darko Rajakovic has figured out over 35 years of coaching that I haven't figured out in 35 years of life, is that you need to encourage people positively. And I'd be very curious to see how this is going to go, because so far he has said that Dennis Schroeder can do more. Jakob Poeltl can do more. Scottie is going to be great. And Pascal is one of the best players in the league. And OG Anonuby is one of the best defenders. And Scottie can win Defensive Player of the Year. And this person is great. And then it's a lot of players. Is that what a coach is supposed to do? Maybe. Maybe that's why I'm not a coach. Because I would tell you, you're straight trash and you need to get in the gym. So, like, it's different strokes for different folks. I'm not joking about it. I think that he's a welcome breath of fresh air. And for a team that has just had their spirits beaten, I think this was important. It's important. It's important, and it fits this roster. It fits this roster. Darko has the heart of a teacher. You can always see potential in students. Good teachers actually believe what they're saying, not just gaslighting students. You know what's funny? I don't think he's lying. I think he really does think that these players are as good as he thinks they are. And I was very relieved to see that he saw the potential in Scottie, because it never felt like Nick Nurse fully saw the potential in Scottie. I could be wrong. And when we took the interview, y'all remember the interview with Darko Rajakovic, and you know when he did the translations, and it's just his face. One of the things that Tony said to me as well is, like, you can really tell he likes Scottie. Like, his face just lights up. But you're now seeing that it's not just about Scottie with him. It's not like with Nick Nurse. You could tell, like, it was about Fred and Pascal and his guys. And it's not like that with this guy. It's not just about Scottie. It's not just about OG. He really has, like, a lot of passion and compassion for a lot of people. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing, because it's much easier to take the poison pill of you're not playing tonight from a guy cares. It's important. So anyways, let us I DM'd it to you. What did you DM? That's funny. Okay. All right. Let me let us hear from OG Anonuby on the post game, and then I will also take a 2-minute break. Y'all will appreciate that. Unlike
excited for Darko.
Some other channels, I don't leave.
So it's pretty cool.
You guys ended up closing small, and you sort of had the key deflection steal when steal. You're calling the steal. When Rudy was trying to seal you. How gratifying is it to make that sort of play in that moment?
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool just to seal the win, and then Scottie scored, and then after that, I don't know how much we're up by. 6. Yeah, but it was pretty good.
You're walking about. You're all wrapped. You were sort of moving a bit gingerly.
I was happy. Oh yeah. No, I had like a cramp, but it's fine.
Yeah.
No, it was pretty good though. It was a hard-fought game. We knew it was gonna be up and down, but we fought till the end. We came out on top.
You obviously get a lot of the attention defensively, but for your team to do what you did tonight defensively. How did it feel out there, sort of being on a string?
In practice, we go over the rotations a lot and we go through everything and the communication stuff. So for us to come out tonight, and it wasn't perfect, but for it to be like that, we're very happy and just gonna keep trying to improve as the year goes on.
Yeah, Edwards got off to a pretty hot start there, and then really struggled after that. Did you change anything in terms of your approach with him, or he just hit some shots early?
I was a little too loose with him. He's a great player, but I was giving him too much space and just trying to make him more uncomfortable. It's pretty comfortable, and that's what great players do. When they're comfortable, they make shots. So just trying to make it difficult for him, and just be physical with him and force him into difficult shots.
Everybody talked about the summer he had with the American team. You saw him last year. How much of a different player is he now?
Oh, yeah, he just gets better and better every year. Great player. He's going to keep getting better and better. So.
Darko was talking about the learning curve of the offense here. And some certain points during the game, there was guys not really.
Just communicating and just trying to slow down. A lot of times we rush or go too fast trying to just do stuff, but just getting settled down and just getting to an action or a set and just trying to execute.
OG, a couple of threes you did tonight were like one dribble pull-ups. I feel like didn't see like a ton of those from you last season, but just like creating maybe a little bit of extra space behind the screens. That's something you've been working on?
Yeah, it's definitely something I've been working on, to get more threes, not just catch and shoot ones. Just try to get some off the dribble, off the screens. They're going under, shoot those ones. Just definitely trying to get more than just catch and shoot threes.
The playbook on both ends looks really different. You guys were huddling up a lot more than I think I've ever seen. Does this feel like a new era of Raptors basketball?
I guess. Every year's a new team, so I don't know how to answer that. But it's definitely a different team.
Yeah.
And we're all just excited for right now, and as the season goes on, just keep going on.
Okay, I'm trying to see if I can get the post-game reaction from Darko Rajakovic onto the screen here. It's epic, it's incredible, and I really want to show it because it is the vibes, man. Like, I now feel bad for joking about him because it's what the Kings did for Jordi Fernandez last year times 5. Hang on, to those of you who have not seen it, one sec, I want to pull it on the screen. And hopefully this works. Okay, let's check it out. Oh no, you can't hear it. Why can we not hear it? Because I don't have the audio on. Hang on. Pull it back, pull it back, pull it back, pull it back.
Winning is fun, okay? And it's not easy. And you guys gave it all out there, okay? And I'll tell you this, none of you guys played the best game of the season tonight, okay? We have so much more room for improvement. And that's our goal, night in, night out, to continue getting better.
Yes, sir.
And what you guys did, let's stay together. And we got a win for the team. Hello, job, guys. Bring it in. Go, what you got, baby?
What you got?
Family on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Family!
Okay, I don't understand why that didn't come through the microphone here. I don't know if you guys could hear it. Daryl saying goosebumps. Let's go, Darko. Wow. React to Bobby's interview tonight. I don't, man, how many interviews you want me to react to? What was said? Was it something bad? Was it something good? Was it, I'm curious. Maybe we'll do, because there's not a game tomorrow, right? So maybe tomorrow we can talk about that as well, right? Anyways, I like what he did there, right? He told him straight, this was not the greatest game, but we worked hard. We got it. There's no denying the Raptors played their butts off tonight. So very happy. Little cat in the back, my girlfriend's cat, looking at me like, yo, bro, what are you doing? What's up? He's such a troll. All right. Okay. I think we're going to end this live right here. If you haven't hit subscribe, please hit subscribe. Please like this video, and hopefully it gets out to more Raptor fans. Yes, I had some critique tonight because I do want this team to, shore up some of its weaknesses. I think partially I've been so hard on this team over the last year because I see the potential of some of these players, man. I think that, if I look up tomorrow and Scottie Barnes is holding a championship trophy, I think OG Anonuby could be his starting teammate. That means you have pieces here that can get to that level. I think you need the other pieces to agree to the role, and I think you need those other pieces. Bro called cat a troll. A cat. The cat is a troll. Okay, he's an absolute troll. He will rip up my seat, and then he'll look at me like he didn't do it, like somebody else did it. Anyways, what I'm saying is that the potential is there. Like, these are the types of players that you put on a winning team, on a winning organization. And for last year, this team did not play like a winning team. They did not have the energy, the communication, the effort sometimes of a winning team, the play style of a winning team, the philosophy of a winning team. I hope that is going to change. I think this team is still far away. I think he's right. I don't know if they'll get there this year, but I do think that this is the start of something fun. I think it's going to be fun. And it is generally just fun to watch a team that plays together. So on that note, I bid you all a good night. I'm going to go check out the rest of the Spurs Mavs game, see what I missed. But overall, great start for the Toronto Raptors. Can't wait. Sean over here, who has done so much behind the scenes to try and hook us up with this person and that person. I think you said it to me last year. You said, I can't wait for you to have a good team to cover, because the last year's season was a disaster. And that's where we built up most of our audience. We built up most of our audience in a very down year for Raptors engagement, Raptors content, etc. We had almost 400 people here tonight. That was awesome. Let's see if we can get up to 1,000. By the end of the year, we can keep these lives informative. We can keep doing some of the post-game stuff. We can do live reacts. We can do call-ins, and we can have a community here that hopefully has a lot more to cheer about this year than we did last year. Let's go, Raptors. Yeah, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace. Everyone's saying prayers up for Maine. I'm not sure what's happened because I have not been. Spurs game is another level compared to what we watched as a Raptor game. Go watch. Yeah, I can't wait. Look, I'm a nerd. I'm a basketball nerd. And a part of me just really genuinely feels like what we're watching with Victor Wembanyama is truly something that you won't see for another 50 years, maybe. Or maybe it is a byproduct of people just becoming bigger and more athletic, and athletic training getting so far. Oh, no. I did not know that. Yikes. Okay, well, prayers up to everyone in Maine. All right, y'all. Take care. Have a good one. And I'll see you tomorrow. Drop once this video goes live or stops being live, drop a comment and let me know what you want tomorrow's topic to be. I will definitely be covering what I consider to be a very valuable defender, because I think that versatile defenders need to get a little bit more credit than paint bigs, specifically paint bigs like Rudy Gobert and guys like Jaren Jackson Jr., who is pretty switchable in his defense. But this has been a raging debate forever of how can the best defender in the NBA ever be not a big. And this is sometimes the argument that has made it really hard for guys like Marcus Smart, Drew Holiday to get their due. But I genuinely think that the most valuable player type defensively is Scottie and OG. I think that's the type. Oh, the other animal is here. This is why the door is always closed, because then these two they circle up. SP saying family on 3. Yeah. All right. So drop a comment and let me know once the video goes up what you want tomorrow's topic to be. I'll definitely browse and look. And if something sticks out, maybe it's a particular player on the Raptors, maybe it's a particular player on another team, maybe it's a trend or a topic or a particular play you want discussed, or a particular play you want broken down. We can talk about it tomorrow. Okay. See y'all tomorrow. And hello, dog. His name is Sasha. All right. Talk to y'all later. Peace.